You have 5 seconds to pick up this trash and get out of here, or you can get ready to go to jail for disorderly conduct." Before Officer Grace Whitmore could finish her sentence, she slammed the handcuffs hard onto the table, then pointed her finger straight at Maya Williams' face. Maya Williams did not answer right away. She looked at the old folder bag on the counter, then at the black baton resting in Grace's hand. Grace lifted the baton before Maya could say another word. She did not touch the folder with her hand. She used the hard end of the baton and shoved the old folder bag off the counter, sending it to the floor with a heavy slap. Grace looked down at them like they were garbage. Maya looked down too. Then she looked back at Grace. Her face did not change. "Are you refusing to take my statement, Officer Whitmore?" Grace narrowed her eyes. She had not expected calm. She had expected embarrassment, anger, maybe fear. She got none of it. "I'm refusing," Grace said, leaning forward, "to let people like you waste this department's time. People like you." Maya held Grace's stare. That phrase had followed her through too many rooms in her life. School offices, court hallways, apartment leasing desks, hospital waiting rooms. It always wore a different coat, but it always carried the same meaning. You do not belong here. You do not matter here. You do not get to be heard here. Maya kept her voice even. "I asked to speak with Captain Ellis, and I told you he's not available. You didn't check. I don't need to check. You haven't asked my name." Grace gave a sharp little laugh. "Your name isn't going to change what you're doing." "What am I doing?" "Causing a disturbance." "I'm standing still. You're refusing a lawful order." "What lawful order?" "To leave." "Because I asked to file a statement?" Grace pointed the baton at the folder on the floor. "Because you brought that mess in here and started demanding things." Maya's eyes moved briefly to the front desk camera. The small red light was off. She had seen Grace turn it off less than a minute earlier, right after Maya asked whether the desk accepted written statements. Grace had reached beneath the monitor, pressed a switch, and kept talking as if nothing had happened. Maya had not mentioned it. "Not yet. My statement concerns a wrongful arrest," Maya said. Grace folded her arms, the baton still in her right hand. "Everybody who walks in here says somebody was wrongfully arrested. That doesn't mean they're lying. It doesn't mean I have to waste a captain's time. You don't know what I brought. I know enough." "No," Maya said. "You decided enough." Grace's face hardened. The room behind her went quiet in a way Maya recognized. The kind of quiet that comes when people know something has crossed a line, but nobody wants to be responsible for saying it. Grace took one step from behind the counter. "You need to watch your tone." "My tone is calm. You're getting aggressive." Maya did not move. "No, officer. You are getting embarrassed." That did it. Grace's grip tightened around the baton. At the far end of the hallway, a door opened. Lieutenant Frank Hollis stepped out. He was tall, late 50s, clean uniform, silver at his temples. His face carried the controlled stillness of a man who had spent decades reading suspects, witnesses, victims, and lies. His eyes went first to Grace, then to Maya, then to the folder on the floor, then to Maya's shoes. He paused there, only for a few seconds, but Maya saw it. Her shoes were plain black sneakers, clean but worn at the heel. Nothing expensive, nothing impressive, but her stance was wrong for the story Grace was telling. Feet balanced, shoulders loose, chin steady. No panic, no pleading, no shame. Hollis looked up at her face. Something changed in his eyes. Not fear, recognition. The instinct of an old cop noticing that the woman in front of him was not reacting like a normal walk-in complaint. He took one step forward. Grace saw him and immediately lifted her voice. "It's fine, Lieutenant. Just a routine disturbance. I can handle it." Hollis stopped. For 1 second, he kept looking at Maya. Maya looked back. That second told her plenty. He sensed something was off. He knew Grace might be making a mistake, but he also knew that stepping in would mean asking questions. And men like Hollis survived by choosing when not to ask questions. He gave Grace a small nod and stepped back into the hallway. Grace turned back to Maya with fresh confidence. "You heard me," she said. "Pick up your trash and leave." Maya bent down slowly. She picked up the folder bag from the floor and tucked the loose papers back inside before Grace could see a single line. Grace watched her with satisfaction. waiting for humiliation. Maya gave her none. She stood, folder bag in hand. "May I have your badge number for the record?" Grace laughed. "For the record? Lady, there is no record." "There will be." Grace stepped closer. "You think that scares me?" "No." "Then why are you still talking?" "Because I want to remember your exact words." For the first time, Grace hesitated. Suspicion crossed her face, quick and thin. Maya saw the question form behind Grace's eyes. Who is this woman? But pride killed the question before it could reach Grace's mouth. Grace turned toward two officers near the inner doorway. "Escort her out." One of them hesitated. Grace snapped, "Now!" The younger officer came forward first. He did not look cruel. He looked uncomfortable, which was often more dangerous. Cruel people knew what they were doing. Uncomfortable people helped them do it, and called it procedure. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "let's step outside." Maya looked at him. "Are you ordering me out before anyone reviews my statement?" His jaw moved once. "Please don't make this harder." Maya studied him for half a second. Then she nodded. "I'm leaving peacefully." Grace pointed the baton toward the door. Finally, Maya walked toward the exit, folder bag against her side. Behind her, Grace called out, "Next time, try calling before you come in here acting important." Maya stopped at the door. She could have turned around. She could have opened the folder. She could have said one sentence and changed the temperature of the entire room. But that would have ended the test too early. So she kept her back to them. "There won't be a next time like this," Maya said. Then she pushed the door open and walked out. The cold Baltimore air hit her face. She did not slow down. She walked down the precinct steps, crossed the sidewalk, and headed toward a black sedan parked half a block away. Only when her hand touched the rear door handle did she look back. Through the glass doors, Grace was already talking to another officer, gesturing sharply, telling the story her own way. The younger officer who had escorted Maya out stood near the counter, staring at the floor. Then Maya saw Hollis again. He stood at the hallway entrance. He was not looking at Grace. He was looking at the front doors, as if he expected something to return. Maya opened the car door and got inside. Paul Reeves, the state investigator in the driver's seat, looked up from his phone. "Well?" Maya placed the folder bag on the seat beside her. "She threatened to arrest me before asking my name." Paul's expression changed. "Whitmore?" "Yes." "Did Hollis appear?" He watched. Paul went still. "That confirms part of the pattern. It confirms enough to move." "Did they know who you were?" "No." "Did you show credentials?" "No." "Did they look inside the bag?" Maya looked back at the precinct. They knocked it to the floor with a baton and called it trash. Paul's jaw tightened. He said nothing for a moment. Maya watched the building. Grace moved behind the glass again. Hollis disappeared deeper into the hallway. Somewhere inside, people were making choices they did not know would matter later. Maya's mind moved quickly now. Who had seen Grace turn off the camera? Who had watched Hollis walk away? Which files needed to be frozen first? Which officers had been named in complaints? Which records could disappear in 45 minutes? Paul lifted his phone. "Say the word." Maya looked at the old folder bag. Grace had seen worn shoes, a tired black woman, and a cheap folder. She had decided the rest of the story did not matter. That was not just rudeness. That was the culture Maya had come to test. And it had answered her. "Call internal affairs," Maya said. Paul started dialing. "Tell them we are moving from observation to active intervention. Notify the state attorney's office. Notify the mayor's liaison. I want evidence preservation ready before we step back inside." Paul nodded. "What about Whitmore?" "Leave her on duty." Paul looked back at her. "You're sure?" "Yes." "Why?" Maya kept her eyes on the precinct doors. "Because I want to see what she does after she thinks she got away with it." Paul held the phone to his ear. Maya checked her watch. Grace had given her 5 seconds. Maya would give Grace 45 minutes. 45 minutes to talk. 45 minutes to boast. 45 minutes to make the next mistake. Maya leaned back, but she did not relax. Her coffee was cold. Her hands were steady. Her eyes stayed on the entrance. Inside Precinct 12, Officer Grace Whitmore thought the morning had moved on. She was wrong. The story had just started. Paul Reeves made the first call at 9:18 a.m. Maya kept her eyes on the front doors of Precinct 12 while he spoke. She listened to only half the words. The other half of her mind was still inside that lobby, replaying every movement in order. Grace turning off the front camera. Grace using the baton. The folder hitting the floor. Hollis stepping out. Hollis pausing at her shoes. Hollis choosing silence. Maya had learned a long time ago that people revealed themselves in small decisions before they revealed themselves in big ones. A hand reaching under a desk. A lieutenant stepping back instead of forward. A young officer deciding discomfort was safer than courage. Those were not details. Those were evidence. Paul ended the first call and started the second. Maya opened the folder bag just enough to check that nothing had torn when it fell. The pages were still in order. That mattered. Order had saved her more than once. Her life had never given her the luxury of falling apart. At 17, Maya William had been a girl with a baby on the way and a guidance counselor who stopped talking about scholarships the moment she saw Maya's stomach. At 19, she had worked mornings at a legal aid clinic, evenings at a pharmacy counter, and nights at a community college library where the security guard knew to let her stay 15 minutes past closing because she was always reading case law with one hand and answering daycare messages with the other. People had been predicting Maya's failure since before she had a chance to define success. They were polite about it sometimes. That was the part that stayed with her. They said things like, "You're very determined, considering your situation." They said, "Maybe start with something realistic." They said, "Law school is hard for anyone, especially someone with responsibilities." They never said what they meant plainly. They meant a young black single mother should learn to survive quietly and call that ambition. Maya had refused. Not loudly. Loud refusal was too easy for people to punish. She refused by showing up. By finishing forms no one expected her to understand. By reading statutes during lunch breaks. By learning how systems worked. Because people who suffered under systems often knew their pain but not the machinery behind it. Maya wanted the machinery. At 24, she earned a position in a civil rights legal program that investigated housing discrimination, unlawful searches, and police misconduct complaints. She learned how often truth arrived damaged. A grandmother's handwritten timeline, a blurry phone video, a receipt showing someone was across town when an officer claimed otherwise, a hospital record, a text message, a missing file. Truth rarely arrived clean, but it arrived. By 28, Maya had moved into state oversight work. By 30, she had become Deputy Inspector General with the Maryland Office of Police Accountability and Civil Rights Review. The title sounded heavy to people who liked titles. Maya did not trust titles. She trusted patterns. And Precinct 12 had patterns. Paul finished the second call. "The state attorney's office is sending 2 people," he said. "Internal affairs is 10 minutes out. Mayor's liaison says she can be here in 30, maybe less." "Tell her 20, Maya said. Paul looked at her in the rearview mirror. "She won't like that. She doesn't need to like it. She needs to arrive before anyone inside that building starts cleaning up." Paul nodded and made the call. Maya checked her watch again. Jodan Arshasenfen. Grace had almost 40 minutes left to believe she had won. Maya allowed herself to think about why this particular case had reached her desk. The first complaint had come from Calvin Brooks, a 54-year-old warehouse supervisor with careful handwriting and no legal training. His adult son had been arrested outside a corner store after a robbery 3 blocks away. Calvin insisted his son had been at work. He brought timesheets, a supervisor's statement, and a copy of a bus transfer. The desk officer refused to take it. That desk officer was Grace Whitmore. 2 weeks later, Calvin was arrested outside the same precinct for disorderly conduct after demanding a badge number. The second complaint came from Mrs. Alberta King, 67 years old, retired cafeteria manager, church treasurer, grandmother of a man who signed a confession she believed he could not have understood because he had asked for a lawyer 3 times. Her complaint vanished. The third came from a nurse, the fourth from a mechanic, the fifth from a woman whose brother's phone disappeared after booking. Then came more. Different stories. Same names. Grace Whitmore at the front. Lieutenant Frank Hollis at the bottom. Captain Raymond Ellis somewhere in between, either looking away or signing off after someone else had done the damage. That was why Maya had entered without credentials. She did not need to know how Precinct 12 treated state authority. Everyone treated authority with manners when it arrived wearing the right badge. She needed to know how they treated the powerless. Now she knew. Paul ended the call with the mayor's liaison and turned slightly in his seat. She says 25 minutes. Fine. You want to brief the team before they arrive? Yes. Short and clean. No speeches. Paul almost smiled. That's your specialty. Maya looked at him. He dropped the smile. Sorry. She was not offended. She just did not have room for lightness yet. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. Maya let it ring once before answering. This is William. A woman's voice came through, low and hurried. Are you the lady Grace just threw out? Maya sat up straighter. Who is this? I work records. I'm not giving my name on this line. Maya looked at Paul. He saw her expression and stopped moving. What do you need to tell me? Maya asked. She turned the front camera off before she went at you. I know. The woman went silent for half a breath. You saw? Yes. She does that. Not every time. Only when she wants no argument later. Maya reached for a pen. How often? I don't know. Enough. Who else knows? A pause. Everybody who works the front long enough. Does Hollis know? The woman gave a dry, frightened laugh. Lieutenant Hollis knows everything that helps him. Maya wrote that down. The woman continued. Faster now. If you're coming back, come back with people. Not just one or two. And don't let them send you to the second-floor conference room first. Why? That's where they stall visitors while files get moved. Maya's grip tightened on the pen. What files? I have to go. Wait. The line clicked dead. Maya lowered the phone. Paul watched her in the mirror. Inside call? Yes. Records employee. Wouldn't give a name. What did she say? Maya repeated it. Paul's face changed when she mentioned the second-floor conference room. That matches the complaint from the nurse. Maya nodded. They delayed her 40 minutes before taking her statement. And the property log changed during that window. Yes. Paul looked toward the precinct. You think they're moving files now? I think Hollis is deciding whether he needs to. Inside her mind, the next step became sharper. They could not wait for every official to arrive. But they also could not walk in too early and let the precinct frame it as one angry officer's discipline issue. Maya needed witnesses, authority, preservation orders, and enough people entering together that no one could quietly redirect them. That was the balance. Move too slowly, and evidence disappeared. Move too quickly, and the system protected itself by calling her reckless. Maya had walked that line her entire career. She had walked it as a black woman in rooms where calm was demanded from her by people allowed to be careless. She had walked it as a single mother in interviews where men asked about work-life balance, while never asking fathers the same question. She had walked it as an investigator listening to families who came with proof and left with silence. Now she would walk it into Precinct 12. Paul's phone buzzed. Internal Affairs is 2 blocks out. Maya closed the folder bag. Tell them to park behind us. Not in front. No sirens. No lights. Paul relayed the instruction. Maya stepped out of the sedan. The cold air hit again, but she stayed focused on the precinct doors. Paul came around the car with his notebook and phone. A dark SUV pulled in behind them. 2 internal affairs investigators got out. One woman in a navy coat. One older man with a gray mustache and a hard plastic evidence case. Maya did not waste time. Front camera was turned off before contact escalated. She said, Officer Whitmore used a baton to knock my folder bag onto the floor. She threatened arrest without reviewing documentation or asking my name. Lieutenant Hollis observed and withdrew after Whitmore characterized it as a routine disturbance. An unidentified records employee just called and warned that visitors are stalled in the second-floor conference room while files are moved. The woman from Internal Affairs asked, Do we have consent to enter? We have oversight authority, Maya said, and we have probable cause to preserve records before alteration. The older investigator lifted the evidence case. Priority, front desk camera system, complaint intake logs, body camera docking station, records room access logs, any file connected to Grace Whitmore, Frank Hollis, Calvin Brooks, Alberta King, and Andre Miller. The older investigator looked up at the last name. Andre Miller? Maya held his gaze. Yes. He did not ask more. That told Maya the name had weight beyond her file. A second state car pulled up. Then another. The small group formed without ceremony. No one raised their voice. No one needed to. Maya checked her watch. Jodan Wushabafen. 40 minutes had passed. Not 45. Paul noticed. You said 45. Maya looked at the precinct doors. I changed my mind. Why? Because someone inside got scared enough to call. She took the folder bag from the seat and placed the strap over her shoulder. This time, she did not carry it like a citizen hoping to be heard. She carried it like a record that had already begun speaking. As Maya crossed the street toward Precinct 12, she thought of Grace's baton striking the bag. She thought of Hollis stepping back. She thought of the camera light going dark. Then she thought of every person who had walked through those doors and left, believing the truth had no witness. Today, it did. Maya reached the precinct steps. Paul moved to her right. Internal Affairs moved behind her. The evidence case clicked once in the older investigator's hand. Maya opened the door. Inside, Grace Whitmore turned from the front desk with irritation already on her face. Then she saw the people behind Maya. The irritation disappeared. Maya walked straight to the counter and placed the old folder bag in the same spot where Grace had knocked it down. This time, Grace did not touch it. Maya removed her credentials and held them up. Officer Whitmore, she said. My name is Maya William. I am Deputy Inspector General with the Maryland Office of Police Accountability and Civil Rights Review. Grace's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Maya continued. As of this moment, this precinct is under active civil rights review. You will step away from the desk. You will surrender your department phone. You will not access any camera system, complaint log, or records database. Grace looked toward the hallway. Maya did not. She already knew who Grace was looking for. Lieutenant Hollis can join us, Maya said. In fact, I was counting on it. 45 minutes later, Grace Whitmore stared at the credentials in Maya's hand, as if the letters might rearrange themselves into something less damaging. They did not. Maya William, Deputy Inspector General, Maryland Office of Police Accountability and Civil Rights Review. Grace's face changed in stages. Irritation first, then confusion, then a brief flash of fear she tried to bury under attitude. I didn't know who you were, Grace said. Maya lowered her credentials but did not put them away. That was never the problem. Grace swallowed. I mean, you came in here without identifying yourself. I came in here as a citizen. You misrepresented yourself. No, Maya said. You assumed I was nobody. The words landed harder than if Maya had shouted them. Grace looked past her again. Toward the hallway, Maya turned slightly to Paul Reeves. Secure the front desk camera system. Paul nodded to the Internal Affairs investigators. The woman in the navy coat moved behind the counter with practiced speed. Grace stepped in front of her. You can't just come behind my desk. The investigator held up her badge. Step aside. This is my post. Not anymore, Maya said. Grace looked back at Maya. You can't suspend me over a misunderstanding. Maya placed the old folder bag on the counter. It sat there between them, worn and quiet. The same bag Grace had knocked to the floor with her baton less than an hour earlier. This is not a misunderstanding, Maya said. A misunderstanding is when two people hear the same words differently. What happened here was an officer refusing to accept a citizen's statement, disabling a front desk camera, using a baton to knock documents to the floor, threatening arrest, and ordering removal before reviewing a single page. Grace's lips parted. She had not expected the camera switch to be noticed. Maya saw it. So did Paul. The Internal Affairs investigator at the camera terminal looked over. Front desk feed was manually interrupted at 9 a.m. Grace snapped. That camera has been glitching all week. Then you should have filed a maintenance log, Maya said. Grace had no answer. Behind Maya, the precinct doors opened again. Two people from the state attorney's office entered, followed by a woman in a charcoal coat who introduced herself as the mayor's liaison, Andrea Whitcomb. Maya acknowledged them with a nod and kept her focus on the desk. Officer Whitmore, Maya said. Place your badge on the counter. Grace took one step back. No. The room tightened. Paul shifted his weight but did not move forward. The internal affairs investigators stopped what they were doing. The younger officer who had escorted Maya out earlier stood near the wall, eyes fixed on Grace. Maya did not repeat herself immediately. She let Grace hear her own refusal hanging in the air. Then Maya said, "You are being placed on administrative suspension pending civil rights review and internal investigation. You will surrender your badge and department-issued phone. Your service weapon will be secured according to department protocol by a supervising officer." Grace's face flushed. "You can't do this in front of everyone. You did what you did in front of everyone. That was different." "How?" Grace opened her mouth. Nothing came out. A voice spoke from the hallway. "What exactly is happening here?" Lieutenant Frank Hollis walked toward the front desk with controlled steps. He did not hurry. Men like Hollis understood that moving slowly could look like authority if a room had been trained to fear you. Maya turned to him. "Lieutenant Hollis." His eyes moved from Maya's credentials to the internal affairs investigators, then to Grace. "Deputy Inspector General," he said. "This seems like an aggressive response to a front desk complaint." "It would be," Maya said, "if that were all this was." Hollis looked at the old folder bag. This time, he did not let his eyes linger. He had learned from the first mistake. Maya noticed that too. Hollis folded his hands in front of him. "Officer Whitmore reported a disturbance. Officer Whitmore disabled the desk camera before creating one." Grace turned sharply. "Lieutenant, I didn't..." Hollis lifted one hand. Grace stopped talking. That small gesture told Maya more than a confession would have. Grace was loud when she faced citizens. She went silent when Hollis raised two fingers. Maya looked at Paul. "Add that to your notes." Paul wrote it down. Hollis's jaw tightened slightly. "I would be careful about implying misconduct without a full review. That is why we're here. Then let us provide a room upstairs." "No." Hollis paused. Maya continued. "We will not be moved to the second-floor conference room, while records are accessed elsewhere." For the first time, Hollis's face changed. Only a little, but enough. Andrea Whitcomb, the mayor's liaison, glanced at Maya, then at Hollis. Maya kept going. "This review begins here. Right now. Complaint logs will be preserved. Camera systems will be secured. Records room access will be frozen. Body camera docking records will be copied. No officer named in preliminary complaints is to access department systems until cleared by internal affairs." Hollis said, "That is a broad order. It is a lawful one." "Based on what?" Maya looked at Grace. Grace looked away. "Based on direct observation," Maya said, "and an existing complaint pattern." Hollis let out a measured breath. "Complaint pattern?" Maya did not answer him. "Not yet." She turned back to Grace. "Badge." Grace's hand moved slowly to her chest. Her fingers touched the badge but did not remove it. "This is humiliating," she said. Maya's voice remained steady. "So was being threatened with jail for trying to submit a statement." Grace looked at her with something close to hatred. Maya did not return it. Hatred would have been easier than discipline. But Maya had not come back to punish Grace's pride. She had come back to stop a pattern before it swallowed another person whole. Captain Raymond Ellis appeared from the interior hallway, buttoning his jacket as he came. He was older than Hollis, heavier, with a face that looked tired before anyone spoke to him. "What is going on?" Ellis asked. Maya turned toward him. "Captain Ellis, I requested to speak with you less than an hour ago. Officer Whitmore refused to check your availability, disabled the front camera, knocked my documents to the floor with a baton, threatened me with arrest, and had me escorted out." Ellis looked at Grace. Grace stared at the floor. Ellis looked at Hollis. Hollis gave him nothing. Then, Ellis looked back at Maya's credentials. "I was not informed you were here. That is part of the problem." Ellis rubbed a hand over his mouth. "Deputy Inspector General, perhaps we can move to my office and discuss this." "No." The answer came fast. Ellis blinked. Maya softened nothing. "This precinct is under active civil rights review. We will begin with preservation of evidence, then interviews. Officer Whitmore is to surrender her badge pending administrative suspension." Ellis looked uncomfortable. Grace whispered, "Captain." Ellis did not answer her. Maya watched him make the choice. It took longer than it should have. but not as long as it might have. Finally, Ellis said, "Officer Whitmore, comply." Grace looked betrayed. "Captain, you're serious?" "Badge," Ellis said. The room went still. Grace unpinned the badge from her uniform. For a second, her hand shook. Not enough for everyone to see. Enough for Maya to notice. Grace placed the badge on the counter. The sound was small, metal against laminate, but no one moved after it. Maya looked at the badge, then at the old folder bag beside it. Less than an hour ago, Grace had used one symbol of authority to degrade what she thought was powerless. Now that authority sat separate from her, no longer protected by shine or habit. "Department phone," Maya said. Grace removed it and placed it next to the badge. The internal affairs investigator bagged it. Maya turned to Paul. "Document. Time of surrender. 10:03 a.m., Paul said. Grace stared at Maya. "You planned this." Maya met her eyes. "No. You confirmed it." Hollis stepped closer. "Confirmed what? Exactly?" Maya turned to him. "That this precinct has a front door problem." Hollis almost smiled. "A front door problem?" "Yes," Maya said. "The front door is where citizens learn whether the law sees them as people or paperwork. This morning, Officer Whitmore gave us an answer." Hollis looked around the room. "And you believe that justifies a civil rights review of an entire precinct?" Maya picked up the folder bag. "No, Lieutenant. This justifies my decision not to wait another day." She looked to the internal affairs team. "Seal the intake logs." The older investigator moved. Hollis said, "Those logs are part of active department operations." Maya said, "Then they should be accurate." No one spoke. The first evidence seal was placed over the complaint intake cabinet at 10:07 a.m. The second went on the front camera terminal. The third went on the side access door to records. As each seal went down, Maya watched the faces inside the precinct. Grace looked angry. Ellis looked ashamed. The younger officer looked frightened. Hollis looked thoughtful. That concerned her most. A guilty hothead made mistakes. A guilty veteran made plans. Maya stepped closer to Paul and spoke low enough that only he could hear. "Watch Hollis." Paul did not look at him. "Already am." Grace, now without her badge, stood behind the counter like someone who had suddenly lost the language of the room. Maya turned to her one last time. "You will remain available for interview. You will not speak to witnesses. You will not access records. You will not contact anyone about this review, except your union representative and legal counsel." Grace's voice came out rough. "You think you're better than me?" Maya held her gaze. "No. I think the people who walk through that door deserved better than you." Grace looked away first. At the end of the hallway, K9 Justice barked once from somewhere deeper inside the precinct. Maya turned toward the sound. Hollis turned too. The bark came again. This time, sharper. Officer Reed's voice followed from the hall. "Somebody better come back here." Maya picked up the old folder bag from the counter. The review had begun at the front desk, but whatever waited in the back of Precinct 12 was already calling for them. Not revenge. The bark from the back hallway pulled every eye away from the front desk. Maya did not move first. That mattered. In a precinct under review, the person who moved too quickly could be accused of creating urgency where procedure should lead. Maya had seen that trick before. A bad department could turn even a correct action into a question of temperament. So she looked at Captain Ellis. "Captain," she said, "who is with K9 Justice?" Ellis cleared his throat. "Officer Reed." "Then, have Officer Reed hold position. No one enters the evidence area alone." Ellis nodded toward a young officer near the wall. "Tell Reed to stay put." The officer hurried down the hallway. Grace Whitmore stood without her badge, her arms held stiffly at her sides. Her eyes kept moving from Maya to the sealed camera terminal to the hallway where the dog had barked. She looked less angry now. Anger needed confidence. Grace was beginning to lose hers. Lieutenant Hollis had recovered faster. "That dog barks at everyone," he said. Maya turned to him. "Then this should be routine." His mouth tightened. Paul Reeves stood beside the front counter, writing notes. The internal affairs team continued securing the desk area. Andrea Whitcomb, the mayor's liaison, watched everything with the expression of someone who had expected trouble but not this kind of trouble before lunch. Maya looked at Grace again. "Officer Whitmore, you will remain here until Internal Affairs completes the first intake interview." Grace lifted her chin. "I want my union rep." "You may call your union representative." "I want to make that call now." "You may do that after your department phone is secured and after you are provided a monitored line for representation. You will not use a personal device to contact anyone connected to this precinct." Grace's eyes widened. "You can't stop me from using my own phone." Maya's answer was immediate. "During an active civil rights review involving possible evidence interference, I can restrict contact with potential witnesses and subjects long enough to preserve the integrity of the investigation." Grace looked to Ellis. "Captain?" Ellis hesitated. Maya watched that hesitation carefully. Ellis had spent years in command. He knew policy. He knew what Maya said was lawful, but he also knew Grace, Hollis, the union, the politics of the building, and the personal cost of choosing the hard thing in a room where the easy thing had become tradition. Finally, Ellis said, "Do as she says." Grace stared at him, as if he had slapped her. Hollis stepped in before Grace could speak. "Deputy Inspector General, with respect, this is escalating far beyond what the initial incident supports." Maya faced him fully. "With respect, Lieutenant, the initial incident included camera interference, intimidation with a baton, refusal to accept a citizen complaint, and removal from a public service area without review. You're framing it that way. I'm recording it that way." He gave a small nod, as if he appreciated the distinction even while disliking it. "Then let us complete an internal review and forward the results." "No." His eyes sharpened. "No? No. This precinct does not get to investigate itself on a matter involving possible civil rights violations and evidence handling." Hollis glanced toward Andrea Whitcomb. "The city may want to consider the optics of that statement." Andrea did not answer. Maya did. "The city should be more concerned with the facts than the optics." That ended the exchange. For the moment, Officer Reed appeared at the end of the hallway with the younger officer beside him. Reed was 58, broad through the shoulders, gray at the beard, with the slow, careful walk of a man whose knees had paid for decades of duty. K-9 Justice stood at his left side, alert but controlled. Reed's eyes moved across the room until they settled on Maya. "You're Maya William," he said. Maya paused. She had not expected him to know her. "Yes." Reed's face changed slightly. "Robert Williams' girl." The name hit Maya with more force than she showed. A few people in the room looked confused. Hollis did not. He recognized the name. Maya saw it in the way his eyes shifted away for half a second. "My father knew a lot of people in this neighborhood," Maya said. "He did more than know them," Reed said. "He helped half of them when nobody else would pick up the phone." Maya held still. This was not the time for memory, but memory had a way of entering rooms without asking permission. Reed looked toward the front counter, then at Grace, without her badge. "What happened?" Maya answered before anyone else could shape the story. "Officer Whitmore refused to accept a statement, disabled a camera, knocked my folder to the floor with a baton, threatened arrest, and had me removed." Reed looked at Grace. Grace looked away. Reed turned back to Maya. "And now?" "Now, this is an active civil rights review." Reed nodded once. "Good." Hollis spoke from behind him. "Officer Reed, unless you're part of this conversation, return to your post." Reed did not turn around immediately. When he did, he looked at Hollis without fear. "I was at my post when Justice alerted." "To what?" "Evidence storage corridor." Hollis's expression did not change, but Maya felt the room tighten around him. Maya said, "We will address that after we secure the front desk records and establish interview order." Reed nodded. Then he looked back at Maya. "Your father used to say something about badges." Maya did not want him to continue. Not here. Not in front of Hollis. Not in front of Grace. But Reed said it anyway. He said, "A badge should make a frightened person breathe easier, not make them lower their eyes." The words moved through the room quietly. Maya felt them settle somewhere old. She remembered her father saying it at a folding table in a church basement when she was 13. He had been speaking to neighbors after a boy from their block was shoved against a squad car for asking why his brother was being searched. Robert William had not been a police officer, but officers listened when he spoke because he had earned trust the slow way. He showed up. He stayed late. He remembered names. Then, years passed, and the city changed, and trust became something people spoke about at press conferences because fewer citizens could feel it in their lives. Maya looked at the front door. Less than an hour ago, she had been pushed out of it. She thought of the old folder hitting the floor. She thought of Grace's baton. She thought of Hollis pausing, recognizing something, then choosing silence. This could easily become personal. That was the danger. She felt the anger in her. Not hot, not wild, cold, focused. The kind that could make a person believe every sharp move was justified because the injury was real. But Maya had built her life by refusing to hand her enemies the version of her they wanted. She looked at Grace, then at Hollis, then at Ellis. "I want everyone in this room to understand something," Maya said. "This review is not retaliation for how Officer Whitmore treated me." Grace gave a bitter little laugh. "Could have fooled me." Maya did not react. "This began with what I witnessed. It continues because what I witnessed matches existing complaints from citizens who did not have the power to come back with state authority." The room went still again. Maya turned to Paul. "List the preliminary complaint names." Paul opened his notebook. Calvin Brooks, Mrs. Alberta King, Denise Harrow, Marcus Lee, Evelyn Porter, Daniel Rivas. Grace's face changed at the second name. Maya saw it. So did Paul. Grace tried to recover. "Too late," Maya said. "Officer Whitmore, you recognize Mrs. King?" "No." "You reacted." "I didn't." Maya let it go. For now. Andrea Whitcomb stepped closer. "Deputy Inspector General, what exactly are you ordering at this stage?" "Immediate preservation of all complaint intake logs for the past 3 years. Preservation of front desk camera records, including manual interruptions. Preservation of body camera docking logs. Preservation of evidence, room access logs. Separation of Officer Whitmore from records access. Initial interviews with front desk staff, records staff, and the officers present during my removal." Andrea nodded. "And Lieutenant Hollis?" Maya looked at him. "He remains available for interview and is restricted from accessing complaint or evidence systems pending preservation." Hollis gave a quiet smile. "That's excessive." "No," Maya said. "It is temporary, based on a dog barking and a front desk dispute, based on a pattern." "There is that word again." "Yes," Maya said. "You should get used to hearing it." Captain Ellis shifted uneasily. "Deputy Inspector General, I need to ask whether we can keep this contained. We have operations to maintain. The public doesn't need panic." Maya faced him. "The public has already been panicking, Captain. They just did it quietly because nobody here listened." Ellis looked down. That was not guilt yet, but it was close. Maya lowered her voice, not to soften the point, but to make it harder to ignore. "Captain Ellis, if this department has nothing to hide, preservation protects you. If it does have something to hide, delay protects the wrong people." Ellis closed his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, he looked older. "Proceed," he said. Hollis turned toward him. "Captain," Ellis cut him off. "Proceed." There it was. Not courage, not fully, but a crack in the wall. Maya pointed to the front counter. "Internal affairs, begin with the camera terminal. Paul, document the badge and phone surrender. Miss Whitcomb, I need written confirmation that the mayor's office has been notified of active review status. Officer Reed, keep Justice out of evidence storage until we enter with a full log." Reed nodded. "Understood," Grace muttered. "This is insane." Maya heard her but did not respond. The first phase had begun. No drama, no shouting, no revenge, just records, names, times, access, signatures. That was how bad systems were taken apart when they had spent years learning how to survive outrage. You did not give them outrage. You gave them documentation. Maya picked up the old folder bag from the counter and held it close. She turned toward the hallway where Justice had barked. Not yet. She wanted to go there. Everyone could feel it. Hollis, most of all. But she would not chase the first sound and leave the front desk unsecured. That was how evidence disappeared. That was how frightened clerks changed stories. That was how men like Hollis won. Maya looked back at Grace. "Officer Whitmore, your interview will begin after your union representative is notified. Until then, sit in the front interview room." Grace did not move. Maya waited. Finally, Grace walked toward the room without her badge, without her phone, and without the authority she had used less than an hour ago to humiliate a woman she thought could not answer back. As Grace passed, she whispered, "You're enjoying this." Maya looked at her. "No," she said. "I'm remembering who couldn't." Grace went pale, then kept walking. Reed stood near the hallway with Justice at his side. The dog watched Maya as if waiting for permission. Maya looked at the sealed camera terminal, the complaint cabinet, the front door, then the hallway. For the first time since returning, she allowed herself to think of her father's words without pushing them away. A badge should make a frightened person breathe easier. Maya did not know yet how much rot lived inside Precinct 12, but she knew this much. Before the day was over, someone in that building was going to learn the difference between being protected and being innocent. The hallway of old names. Grace Whitmore sat in the front interview room with no badge on her chest and no phone in her hand. Maya did not look back at her. There would be time for Grace. There would be time for every word she had spoken, every report she had signed, every complaint she had dismissed, every citizen she had decided did not deserve the dignity of being heard. But not yet. First came the foundation. Paul Reeves stood near the counter, logging the time and sequence of the morning. Internal Affairs secured the camera terminal. The older investigator placed an evidence seal across the complaint cabinet. Andrea Whitcomb sent written confirmation to the mayor's office. Captain Ellis watched it all with the strained silence of a man who understood that control had already left his hands. Maya turned to Officer Samuel Reed. "Show me the hallway where Justice alerted." Reed nodded once. "This way." Lieutenant Hollis shifted beside the wall. "I should accompany you," he said. Maya looked at him. "No." His eyes narrowed. "I'm the ranking lieutenant on duty, and you are named in the preliminary pattern under review. That has not been established. It has been identified." Hollis held her stare. "Careful. Deputy Inspector General." Maya stepped closer. Not enough to threaten, just enough to remove any uncertainty. "Lieutenant, I was careful when I walked in here, without showing my title. I was careful when your officer turned off a camera. I was careful when she used a baton to push my folder onto the floor. I was careful when you saw enough to know something was wrong and chose to step back." The room went still. Hollis said nothing. Maya continued. "You will remain in the front administrative area unless Internal Affairs directs otherwise." Captain Ellis cleared his throat. "Hollis, stay here." Hollis looked at Ellis with quiet contempt, but he did not argue. Maya followed Reed down the hallway. Paul walked behind her. K9. Justice moved at Reed's side, alert and controlled. The hallway was lined with framed photographs, old plaques, community awards, and faded newspaper clippings. Maya did not slow at first. She had not come for memory. She had come for records, witness interviews, and evidence preservation. Then Reed stopped. "Before we go farther," he said, "there's something you should see." Maya turned. Reed pointed to a photograph on the wall. It showed a community meeting from more than 15 years earlier. Folding chairs, a church basement, police officers standing along the back, neighborhood residents seated shoulder to shoulder. In the center of the photograph stood a man in a brown jacket. One hand lifted as he spoke. Maya knew him before she looked at the nameplate. Robert William, her father. For a few seconds, the investigation around her receded. Not gone, never gone, but pushed back by the sudden force of a face she had not expected to meet in this building. Paul stopped behind her but said nothing. Reed watched her carefully. "He came here more than once," Reed said. "Back when people still believed this precinct might listen if the right person asked the right way." Maya kept her eyes on the photograph. "My father believed in asking the right way longer than most people did." "He believed in people," Reed said. "That's harder." Maya read the small brass plate beneath the picture. Community Safety Forum, East Baltimore Outreach Partnership. Robert William was not smiling in the photo. He rarely smiled when work mattered. He had the same expression Maya remembered from late-night kitchen table conversations, when neighbors came over with problems they did not trust anyone else to carry. Lost sons, unanswered calls, landlord threats, bad arrests, missing paychecks, police reports no one wanted to file. Her father had never worn a badge, but people brought him their fear like he had. Maya looked away from the photograph. "We need to keep moving." Reed nodded, but he did not step forward yet. "Your father once told me something after a bad call," he said. "I was younger then. Thought being right was enough. Thought if my report was clean, my hands were clean." Maya waited. Reed looked down at Justice, then back to her. "He told me, Sam, silence is still a decision. It just lets a coward pretend he didn't make one." The words struck harder than Maya wanted them to. She thought of Hollis stepping back. She thought of Ellis hesitating. She thought of the young officer escorting her out while looking ashamed of his own obedience. Silence was all over Precinct 12. It had desks. It had signatures. It had uniforms. It had reasons. Maya said, "Did he know what this place would become?" Reed's jaw tightened. "I think he was afraid of it." "Were you?" Reed did not answer quickly. That gave her the answer before he spoke. "Yes," he said, "and I stayed anyway." Maya looked at him. Reed accepted the judgment in her silence. "I told myself the good ones had to stay," he said. "Told myself leaving would make it worse. Then 1 year became 5. 5 became 10. You learn where not to stand, which argument not to start, which report not to question unless you want your last years on midnight shift." That sounds like an excuse. It is. Maya respected him more for saying that than she would have for defending himself. Reed looked toward the evidence corridor. Justice alerted near storage. "I don't know what he smelled, but he doesn't bark for politics." Maya adjusted the strap of the old folder bag on her shoulder. "Then we follow the dog." They moved deeper into the building. At the end of the hallway, a locked door led toward evidence storage. A keycard panel blinked beside it. Reed stopped before swiping in. "Do you want the log pulled first?" "Yes," Maya said. Paul stepped forward with his phone. "I'll have Internal Affairs copy the access log before we enter." Maya nodded. "No one opens that door until the log is preserved." Reed pulled his hand back. Justice stood still, eyes fixed on the door. The dog gave one low sound from deep in his chest. Reed looked down. He knows something's back there. Maya looked at the keycard panel. Then someone else knows too. Paul made the call. While they waited, Maya turned back toward the hallway of photographs. Her father's picture was still visible from where she stood. Small now, but clear enough. She remembered being 14 and angry after a neighbor's son had been arrested for something everyone on the block knew he had not done. She had asked her father why people kept going to police stations when police stations kept hurting them. Robert William had not given her a simple answer. He had said, "Because, baby, the door still belongs to the public, even when the wrong people stand behind the desk." Maya had not understood then. She understood now. Less than an hour ago, Grace had tried to make that door belong to her. Hollis had allowed it. Ellis had protected the culture that made it possible. Maya looked at Paul. "How long on the access log?" 2 minutes. Reed shifted his weight. "Deputy Inspector General?" "Yes. If this goes where I think it might, Hollis won't just stand there." "I know. He's careful." "I know that too." "No," Reed said. "I mean careful like a man who keeps other people dirty, so his own hands stay clean." Maya held his gaze. "Then we start with the hands he used. Grace, records, desk officers, complaint intake, evidence logs, then Hollis." Reed nodded slowly. "Your father would have liked that. My father would have hated that it was necessary." Reed looked back at the photograph. "That too." Paul's phone buzzed. "Access log preserved," he said. "Internal Affairs has a copy. Last entry into evidence corridor was 8:41 this morning. Card assigned to property clerk Dana Miles." Reed frowned. "Dana's off today." Maya's eyes sharpened. "Who else has override access?" "Supervisors," Reed said. "Hollis?" "Yes." "Ellis?" "Yes." Maya looked at the locked door. "Open it." Reed swiped his card. The door clicked. Before anyone stepped through, Maya raised a hand. Body cameras on. Paul activated his recording device. Reed turned on his. The internal affairs investigator arriving behind them did the same. Maya looked at Reed. Now. Reed opened the door. Justice moved first. Nose low, body tense. Reed kept the leash short but let the dog lead. Maya followed with Paul to her right. They passed shelves of sealed evidence boxes, plastic bins, tagged envelopes, and locked cages. Maya did not let herself be pulled into every possible problem. Not yet. One step, one alert, one record at a time. Justice moved past the first row, then the second. At the third row, he stopped. His head turned toward an old metal cabinet against the far wall. The cabinet had a strip of gray tape across the handle and a paper sign taped to the front. Out of service. Justice barked once. Reed said, "That's it." Maya looked at the cabinet, then at the evidence room clerk who had followed them in with internal affairs. The clerk was a nervous man in his 40s whose name tag read Miles. But Maya already knew the access log did not fit. "You're Dana Miles?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. You were off this morning?" "I was supposed to be." "Were you here at 8:41? "No." "Did you lend your card to anyone?" His face went pale. "No." Maya looked at Paul. "Document that." Paul wrote it down. Maya stepped closer to the cabinet, but did not touch it. "Who marked this out of service?" Miles swallowed. "I don't know." "When?" "I don't know." Maya turned to Reed. "Has Justice alerted on this cabinet before?" "Never." The dog barked again. Maya looked at the gray tape across the handle. "Photograph it before we open." The internal affairs investigator took photos from 3 angles. Maya waited. Waiting had become part of her discipline. Bad officers rushed citizens. Good investigators let evidence breathe long enough to be seen. When the photographs were done, Maya nodded. "Open it." Miles hesitated. Maya's voice sharpened. "Now." He cut the tape with a utility blade. Reed stood close with Justice. Paul recorded. The cabinet door opened. Inside sat one cardboard evidence box. No shelf label. No electronic tag. No visible chain of custody sheet on the outside. Just a case number written in black marker across the lid. Maya read it once, then again. "Andre Miller." Paul muttered. "That's the name." Reed went quiet. Maya did not touch the box. She looked at the clerk. "Is this box in the system?" Miles shook his head. "I don't know." "Check." He pulled out a tablet with trembling hands and typed in the case number. The wait lasted less than 30 seconds. It felt longer. Miles looked up. "It's not listed." Maya stared at the box. Behind her, Justice stopped barking. The silence after that felt heavier than the sound. Maya thought of Calvin Brooks, Mrs. Alberta King, the anonymous records employee, Grace's baton, Hollis's eyes. The front door had revealed contempt. The back room had just revealed concealment. Maya turned to Paul. "Seal the room." Paul nodded. Maya looked at Reed. "No one touches this box until chain of custody is established." Reed's voice was low. "Understood." Maya looked at the name again. Andre Miller. A man was in prison, while a box bearing his case number sat hidden in a dead cabinet inside Precinct 12. Whatever this investigation had been an hour ago, it had just become something larger. Maya stepped back from the cabinet. "Find Captain Ellis," she said, "and make sure Lieutenant Hollis does not come near this room." 17 complaints. Captain Raymond Ellis arrived at the evidence room 2 minutes after Maya ordered the area sealed. Lieutenant Hollis did not come with him. That was the first thing Maya noticed. Ellis stopped just inside the doorway, eyes moving from Maya to Paul Reeves, then to Officer Reed, then to the old metal cabinet with the cardboard box inside. "What is that?" Ellis asked. Maya did not answer immediately. She watched his face instead. Real surprise was difficult to fake. Not impossible, but difficult. Ellis looked stunned in the way a man looks stunned when a problem he has ignored for years finally grows a body and stands in front of him. Maya pointed to the cabinet, an unlisted evidence box bearing Andre Miller's case number. It was found in an out-of-service cabinet after K9 Justice alerted. The box does not appear in the electronic evidence system. Ellis's mouth tightened. "Who opened the cabinet?" "The property clerk, under observation." Photographs were taken before opening. Body cameras were active. Ellis nodded too quickly. Good. That's good. No, Maya said. It is not good. He looked at her. It is documented, she said. That is different. Ellis did not argue. Paul stood near the evidence room door, writing. Reed kept Justice beside him. The dog had gone quiet but remained focused on the cabinet, as if the truth inside it had a scent no one else could ignore. Maya turned to the property clerk. Mr. Miles, this room is now sealed. You will not enter, remove, add, relabel, or access any item without written authorization from Internal Affairs and my office. Do you understand? Dana Miles nodded. Yes, ma'am. Has Lieutenant Hollis ever instructed you to hold evidence outside the electronic system? Miles went pale. Ellis said, Deputy Inspector General. Maya raised one hand without looking at him. Miles swallowed. I want a lawyer. You are entitled to counsel, Maya said. Until then, you are not to discuss this with anyone inside this precinct. Miles nodded again. Maya turned to Paul. Get him separated, not detained. Separated. Paul motioned to one of the Internal Affairs investigators, who escorted Miles out. Ellis rubbed the back of his neck. Maya, Deputy Inspector General, she said. He stopped. The correction was not about pride. It was about the room. Familiarity was a tool men in power often used when procedure began to close in around them. Ellis understood. His face showed it. Deputy Inspector General, he said. I need to know how wide this is going. Maya looked at the box. So do I. They left the evidence room sealed and returned to the administrative area. By then, Precinct 12 had changed. Not loudly. No one was running. No one was shouting. But every officer seemed suddenly aware of where their hands were, what screen they were near, what file they had touched last. That was what oversight did when it arrived unannounced. It made ordinary movements look like choices. Maya sat up in a small interview room near the front, not the second-floor conference room the anonymous caller had warned her about. Paul sat beside her with a laptop. Internal Affairs began copying complaint logs under observation. Andrea Whitcomb remained near the front desk, taking calls from the mayor's office and saying very little. Grace Whitmore sat in the adjacent room with her union representative on speakerphone. Hollis was nowhere in sight. Maya noticed that too. Find Lieutenant Hollis, she told Paul. Paul sent a message to one of the investigators. Then he turned his laptop toward her. Complaint log export is coming in. How far back? 3 years, like you requested. Filter Whitmore first. Paul typed. The list appeared. 17 complaints. Maya did not react, but she felt the number settle into the room. 17 people had put something in writing. 17 people had taken the risk of saying a uniformed officer had done something wrong. 17 people had trusted a process that had returned the same answer almost every time. Unfounded. Insufficient evidence. No policy violation. Citizen failed to appear. Statement incomplete. Maya leaned closer. Open the first. Paul clicked. Calvin Brooks, age 54. Warehouse supervisor. Complaint date. March 3. Maya read the summary without speaking. Calvin reported that Officer Grace Whitmore refused to accept documentation showing his adult son was at work during the time of an alleged robbery. He stated that Whitmore told him, "Your boy can tell that story to the judge." He further alleged that she threatened arrest if he did not leave the precinct. Disposition. Unfounded. Reviewing supervisor. Lieutenant Frank Hollis. Maya looked at Paul. Next. Mrs. Alberta King. Age 67. Retired school cafeteria manager. Complaint date. April 19. Mrs. King alleged that her adult grandson requested an attorney during questioning and was ignored. She said she attempted to submit a written complaint at the front desk. Officer Whitmore allegedly told her, "This isn't church, ma'am. Praying won't change what he signed." Maya stopped reading for 1 second, not because she was surprised, because Mrs. King had likely stood at that same counter with the same careful dignity Maya had seen in older black women her entire life. Purse in hand. Documents folded in a plastic sleeve. Voice controlled, because anger would be used against her. Disposition. Citizen failed to provide supporting evidence. Reviewing supervisor. Lieutenant Frank Hollis. Next, Maya said. Denise Harrow, Marcus Lee, Evelyn Porter, Daniel Rivas. Name after name, story after story. The pattern tightened. People came to the front desk with complaints about wrongful arrest, missing property, rough treatment, denied calls, altered statements. Grace appeared again and again as the first point of contact. Hollis appeared again and again as the final reviewer. In 12 of the 17 cases, camera footage was marked unavailable. In 9, the reason was technical failure. In 4, the citizen was accused of becoming disorderly. In 3, the citizen was later arrested within 30 days of filing or attempting to file the complaint. Maya sat back. Paul did not speak. He knew better. The anger in the room did not need help. Maya pointed to the screen. Sort by camera failure. Paul did. The dates lined up. Maya's eyes moved down the column. Now, sort by desk shift. Paul typed again. Grace Whitmore. Grace Whitmore. Grace Whitmore. Grace Whitmore. Not every time. Enough, Maya said. Print the summary. Digital copy to secure drive. Flag every complaint where footage was. Paul nodded. The door opened, and Andrea Whitcomb stepped in. I just got off the phone with the deputy mayor, she said. They want to know whether this can be contained as an administrative review. Maya looked at her. Tell them no. Andrea did not seem surprised. They're worried about public reaction. They should be worried about public harm. The phrase civil rights investigation is going to trigger press. The facts triggered this investigation. The phrase only describes it. Andrea held her gaze for a moment, then nodded slowly. I'll tell them. Before she left, Maya added, tell them Andre Miller's name may be involved. Andrea stopped. She knew the name. Everyone seemed to know the name once it was spoken aloud. What does that mean? Andrea asked. It means an unlisted evidence box with his case number was found in storage. Andrea's professional mask slipped. Is he still incarcerated? Yes. Andrea closed her eyes briefly. I'll update them. She left. Paul's phone buzzed. He read the message. Hollis is in his office with Ellis. Maya stood. Paul stood too. No, she said. Stay here. Keep working the complaints. I want the cleanest possible timeline. You're going alone? I'm going to the doorway. Maya walked down the hall toward Hollis's office. She did not enter. She stopped outside. The door was not fully closed. Inside, Ellis's voice was low. Frank, if there's anything I need to know, tell me now. Hollis answered calmly. What you need to know is that she is building a story because Whitmore embarrassed her. That box in evidence could be clerical. An unlisted box? You've seen worse. I have not seen worse with a man still in prison. Silence. Maya stood still. Hollis spoke again. Ray, you start acting scared, and she will take this department apart just to prove she can. Ellis said nothing. Hollis continued. You know what happens when the city smells blood. They will feed somebody to the cameras. Today it's Whitmore. Tomorrow it's you. There it was. Not innocence. Leverage. Maya knocked once on the open door and stepped into view. Both men turned. Captain Ellis, she said. I need your written authorization confirming full cooperation with complaint log preservation. Ellis looked shaken. Hollis looked annoyed. Maya held out a form. Ellis took it. Hollis said, Do you often listen outside doors? When a door is open during an active review, I listen to anything relevant. That sounds convenient. It usually is. Ellis signed the form and handed it back. Maya looked at Hollis. Lieutenant, you are restricted from accessing complaint files, evidence systems, camera systems, and officer disciplinary records, pending preservation review. Hollis leaned back in his chair. On whose authority? Maya did not blink. Mine. He almost smiled. Almost. And if I refuse? Maya looked at Captain Ellis. Ellis took a breath. Then, I will make it a direct order. Hollis turned his head slowly toward Ellis. That was the first real crack between them. Maya saw it happen. So did Hollis. For a moment, the office was silent. Then Hollis stood. Fine. He removed his keycard and placed it on the desk. Not hard. Not dramatic. Careful. Everything he did was careful. Maya looked at the keycard but did not touch it. Paul will collect that. Hollis looked at her. You don't trust me? To hand it over? No. This time, he did smile. It did not reach his eyes. Maya returned to the interview room. Paul had printed the complaint summary. The pages were stacked neatly on the table. 17 complaints. Maya ran her hand once over the top page. The front desk had shown her contempt. The evidence room had shown her concealment. Now the records were showing her repetition. And repetition was where misconduct became culture. Paul looked up. What next? Maya picked up the summary. Now we talk to the people they ignored. She looked through the interior glass at Grace Whitmore, seated without her badge, staring at the wall. And after that, Maya said, we find out how many signatures it took to make 17 people disappear. The name at the bottom. Maya began with Calvin Brooks. He arrived at Precinct 12 at 11:06 a.m., wearing a dark work jacket with his company name stitched over the chest. He kept his hands folded in front of him while he waited near the interview room, but Maya noticed the tension in his fingers. Men like Calvin Brooks did not come back to police stations easily, not after what the file said had happened to him. Paul opened the door and nodded to Maya. He's ready. Maya stepped into the room with the complaint summary in her hand. Calvin stood immediately. Mr. Brooks, Maya said, thank you for coming. He looked at her credentials, then at her face. You the woman they said got thrown out this morning? Maya did not avoid the truth. Yes. Calvin gave one short nod. Then you know? I know part of it, Maya said. I need you to tell me the rest. Calvin sat slowly. He did not rush into his story. He looked toward the closed door first, then at Paul, then back at Maya. Is Whitmore still here? She is separated and under review. And Hollis? Restricted from complaint and evidence systems. Calvin let out a breath, but it was not relief. That man knows how to stand behind other people. Maya opened her notebook. Tell me what happened with your son. Calvin's eyes lowered. My boy, Terrence, works nights at a refrigeration warehouse. Has for 6 years. Never missed a shift, unless his asthma put him down. Last winter, police picked him up for a robbery outside a liquor store. Said he matched the description. Was he at work? Yes, ma'am. Clocked in. Cameras at the loading dock. Supervisor signed a statement. I brought everything here. To Officer Whitmore? He nodded. She didn't look at it. Not one page. Told me my son could tell his story to the judge. Maya wrote that down. What did you do? I asked for her badge number. His mouth tightened. She said if I didn't leave, she'd put me in a cell next to him. Paul glanced up. Maya kept her eyes on Calvin. And later you were arrested. 2 weeks later. I came back because nobody called. Same desk. Same attitude. I raised my voice. I won't lie about that. But I didn't threaten anybody. I asked why nobody had logged the documents. Who arrested you? Whitmore put hands on me first. 2 others helped. Hollis came out after. He told me a man my age ought to know when to walk away. Maya stopped writing. That exact wording? Yes, ma'am. A man your age ought to know when to walk away. It sounded like Hollis. Polite enough to survive a report, threatening enough to be understood by the person receiving it. Maya slid a copy of the complaint disposition across the table. Your complaint was marked unfounded. Calvin looked at the page and laughed once, without humor. Unfounded. That's a clean word for dirty work. Lieutenant Hollis signed the review. I know. How? Calvin tapped the bottom of the page. Because after they mailed me that, I came back and asked who Frank Hollis was. The lady at records told me I didn't want to ask that too loud. Maya and Paul exchanged a glance. What lady at records? Maya asked. Calvin shook his head. I'm not putting her name in this unless you can protect her. Maya respected that. I won't ask again right now. Calvin looked at her for a long moment. You really going after him? I'm going after the facts. That's what people say when they're scared to name names. Maya held his gaze. No, that's what I say. Because facts last longer than anger. Calvin looked down at his hands. Then he nodded. My wife died 8 years ago, he said. I raised Terrence and his sister myself after that. I taught them to work, keep receipts, be respectful, don't run from police, don't talk back. All the things they tell black parents to tell their children. His voice stayed controlled, but his hands tightened again. Then one day, my son did everything right and it still didn't matter. Maya let the silence sit. Calvin did not need comfort. Not yet. He needed to be believed without being rushed. Finally, she said, I believe your documents were ignored. I believe your complaint was mishandled. And I believe Lieutenant Hollis needs to answer for his role. Calvin looked up. That's the first honest sentence I've heard in this building. Maya closed the folder. We may need a formal statement. I'll give it. Today? Right now. Paul began preparing the recording form. Maya stepped out to let him proceed and found Andrea Whitcomb waiting in the hall. The mayor's office wants an update, Andrea said. They'll get one after the first witness statement. They're asking whether Hollis has been directly implicated. Maya looked toward the hallway leading to his office. Not directly enough. Andrea understood the answer. Maya walked back toward the front administrative area. Grace sat behind the glass wall of the interview room, arms crossed, union representative now present beside her. Grace looked up as Maya passed. Her eyes were hard, but the hard shell had begun to crack at the edges. Maya did not stop. She found Captain Ellis near the sealed complaint cabinet, staring at the evidence tape as if it were a personal accusation. Captain, Maya said. He turned. Calvin Brooks is giving a formal statement. Ellis looked tired. I remember Brooks. Do you remember his documents? Ellis looked away. That was enough. Maya stepped closer. Captain, he exhaled. I remember hearing about them. From whom? Grace told me there was a father at the desk making accusations. And Hollis said it had been handled. Maya did not speak. Ellis rubbed his forehead. That sounds bad when I say it out loud. It was bad before you said it out loud. He accepted that. Maya asked, why did Hollis review so many complaints involving Grace? He supervised her shift. That explains assignment, not outcome. Ellis looked toward Hollis's office. Frank was good at making problems go quiet. Problems or people? Ellis did not answer. Maya did not let him escape the silence. Finally, he said, both. That was the first true word Ellis had given her. Maya nodded once. I need access to the supervisory review process. Who assigns complaints? Who approves dispositions? Who can override findings? I can get you that. Now. Ellis moved. As he walked away, Maya saw Hollis step from his office at the far end of the hall. He had surrendered his keycard, but not his confidence. Deputy Inspector General, he called. Maya turned. Hollis approached slowly. I understand you're interviewing citizens now. Yes. Before reviewing full internal context? We are reviewing both. You know how complaints work. People are angry. They leave things out. Officers make difficult decisions, and then families come in trying to rewrite facts after the arrest. Maya waited until he finished. Then, she said, order without justice is just fear with paperwork. Hollis's expression did not change, but his eyes sharpened. That sounds good in a hearing. It sounds better in a precinct that remembers what it is for. He smiled faintly. You're young. Maya almost smiled back. There it was. Not an argument. A tactic. You're not the first person to notice. I mean, you may not understand how quickly a department can fall apart when leadership starts treating every complaint like corruption. Maya stepped closer. And you may not understand how long a community can fall apart when leadership treats every complaint like inconvenience. Hollis looked past her toward the interview room where Calvin Brooks was being recorded. Brooks has a history. So does this precinct. He was arrested for disorderly conduct after asking for a badge number. That's his version. And Officer Whitmore's camera was unavailable. Technology fails. 12 times in 17 complaints? For the first time, Hollis said nothing. Maya let the number stand between them. Then she added, 9 technical failures, 4 disorderly conduct allegations, 3 complainants arrested within 30 days. Your signature at the bottom of each final review. Hollis's jaw moved once. You've been busy. I've been accurate. He leaned in slightly. Accuracy without context is dangerous. Maya held his gaze. So is context written by the person being questioned. Captain Ellis returned with a printed policy binder and a thin folder. Maya took them without looking away from Hollis. Thank you, Captain. Hollis looked at Ellis. That look carried warning. Ellis saw it. He did not retreat this time. Small crack. Wider. Maya opened the thin folder. Inside was the complaint review flowchart and a list of supervisory assignments. Grace Whitmore's complaints had been routed to Hollis, even when another supervisor was available. Maya pointed to the list. Captain, why were these routed to Lieutenant Hollis outside normal rotation? Ellis looked at the page. His face went still. I don't know, Hollis said. Shift continuity. Maya turned the page. 3 complaints occurred on shifts you were not supervising. Hollis's expression hardened. Ellis stared at the page. Maya tapped the bottom of the 3rd complaint. Mrs. Alberta King. This one was filed on a Sunday afternoon. You were off duty, Lieutenant. Yet you signed final disposition Monday morning, before the intake review was complete. Hollis said, I was asked to review it. By whom? No answer. Maya waited. Hollis looked toward Captain Ellis. Ellis did not help him. Maya closed the folder. There's the name at the bottom, she said. Now we find out how it kept getting there. Paul appeared at the hall entrance. Calvin Brooks completed his statement, he said. And Mrs. Alberta King just arrived. Maya turned from Hollis. Bring her to interview too. As she walked away, Hollis spoke behind her. You're turning this place against itself. Maya stopped, but did not turn around. No, Lieutenant, she said. I'm asking it to tell the truth. Then she continued down the hall, carrying the folder that showed the pattern Grace had started and Hollis had signed. The cameras that failed. Mrs. Alberta King arrived with a folder pressed flat against her chest. She was 67 years old, dressed neatly in a navy coat and sensible shoes, with silver hair pinned beneath a soft gray hat. She did not look frightened when she entered the interview room. She looked tired of having to be brave in places where someone should have protected her. Maya stood when she came in. Mrs. King, Maya said. Thank you for coming. Mrs. King looked at Maya's face, then at the badge clipped to her jacket. You're the one who called? Yes, ma'am. And you're really going to listen? Maya did not answer too quickly. Yes, she said. And I'm going to document it. Mrs. King sat. Paul Reeves started the recording after reading the formal statement notice. Mrs. King gave her full name, date of birth, and address. Her voice stayed steady until Maya asked about her grandson. Then, her fingers tightened around the folder. My grandson's name is Darius King, she said. He is 26 years old. He has made mistakes, but he is not what they wrote him to be. Maya nodded once. Tell me what happened. Mrs. King opened the folder and pulled out a copy of her original complaint. The paper had been folded and unfolded so many times the creases had begun to tear. He was brought here after a fight outside a carryout. They said he robbed a man. Darius told me he asked for a lawyer. 3 times. Nobody called one. Hours later, he signed something. Did he understand what he signed? No. He told me he thought it meant he could go home. Maya wrote carefully. When did you come to the precinct? The next morning. I had written everything down. Times, names, what Darius told me. I asked the woman at the front desk to take my complaint. Officer Whitmore. Mrs. King's mouth tightened. Yes. What did she say? Mrs. King looked at the table for a moment. She said this wasn't church, and praying wouldn't change what he signed. Paul's pen stopped for half a second. Maya did not let her face change. She had learned that some witnesses broke if they saw too much anger in the person listening. It made them feel responsible for the wound they were describing. What happened after that? Maya asked. She told me to leave the papers. I asked for a receipt. She said they didn't give receipts for nonsense. Did she take the papers? Mrs. King nodded. She took them. Did you ever receive a response? Yes. A letter said, I failed to provide supporting evidence. Maya looked at the folder. Mrs. King opened it wider. I kept copies. Maya felt a quiet respect move through her. May we scan these? Yes. Paul accepted the documents with both hands. Maya asked, did anyone else speak to you that day? Mrs. King nodded slowly. A lieutenant came out. Maya already knew. Lieutenant Hollis? Yes. He told me my grandson had confessed and that I should be grateful the charge wasn't worse. Maya looked up. His exact words? As close as I remember. Then he said, Mrs. King, you seem like a decent woman. Don't spend your last good years fighting a bad man's battle. Maya stopped writing. There it was again. Polite cruelty. Age used as a weapon. Grace humiliated people at the counter. Hollis made the humiliation sound like advice. Mrs. King looked directly at Maya. I buried my husband 12 years ago. I raised 3 children and helped raise 4 grandchildren. I worked in school cafeterias for 31 years. I know when a child is lying. And I know when a grown man is trying to make me feel small. Maya nodded. I believe you. Mrs. King's eyes shone, but she did not cry. Don't just believe me, she said. Find the tape. Maya leaned forward. What tape? There was a camera in that interview room. Darius looked right at it when he asked for a lawyer. He told me that. He said he looked at it because he wanted somebody to see him ask. Maya turned to Paul. Pull the camera log for Darius King's interview. Paul typed from his laptop. Mrs. King watched him. A minute passed. Then Paul looked up. Marked, unavailable. Technical failure. Maya asked, date and time? Paul read it aloud. Mrs. King closed her eyes. That's what they told me. Maya kept her voice level. Paul, cross-reference that failure with Grace Whitmore's desk shift and Hollis's supervisory review. Paul typed again. Yes. Whitmore was on intake. Hollis signed final disposition. Maya turned back to Mrs. King. Your statement matters. Your copies matter. We are preserving the record now. Mrs. King looked at her for a long time. People always say that after the damage is done. Maya accepted the rebuke. You're right. Mrs. King stood slowly. Then do it different. Maya stood too. I will. After Mrs. King left the room, Maya remained standing. Paul scanned the documents while she reviewed the growing chart on his screen. Calvin Brooks, Alberta King, Darius King, camera, unavailable. Grace at intake, Hollis at review. Complaint dismissed. Maya pointed to the screen. Add a column for front desk camera interruption. Paul looked up. You think Grace was turning it off during intake? I think she did it today because it was a habit. He created the column. A knock came at the door. Andrea Whitcomb stepped in with her phone in hand. We have a problem. Maya looked at her. Press? Andrea nodded. Local station just posted a breaking item online. State official accused of targeting suspended officer after personal dispute at Precinct 12. No names yet, but it's obvious. Paul muttered. That was fast. Maya asked. Source? They cite a police union spokesperson. Maya did not react. That was the next predictable move. Shift the frame. Make it personal. Make Grace the victim before the evidence could make her accountable. Andrea continued. The mayor's office wants to know whether you can issue a limited statement. No. No? No public statement while evidence is being preserved. And witnesses are being interviewed. Their worried silence makes it look like we have something to hide. Talking too soon gives Hollis a map of what we know. Andrea held her phone tighter. I need to give them something. Maya thought for 3 seconds. Say the review is ongoing. Say all involved personnel are being afforded process. Say evidence preservation is standard when complaint integrity is questioned. Nothing more. Andrea nodded. That buys time, not peace. I need time. Peace can wait. Andrea left. Paul's laptop chimed. He leaned closer to the screen. We have the camera maintenance logs. Maya moved beside him. The list appeared thin. Too thin. Only 3 maintenance tickets in 3 years? Maya asked. For the front desk camera system. But 17 complaint files reference unavailable footage. Paul nodded. And 9 claim technical failure. Maya read the dates. Something was wrong. Sort by manual interruption. Paul entered the filter. The system returned a separate access log. It had not appeared in the maintenance file. It tracked manual shutoffs at the desk terminal. Maya watched the list populate. 1 date, then another, then another. Paul stopped typing. 26 manual interruptions. Maya felt the room sharpen. During whose shifts? Paul filtered again. The answer came back. Grace Whitmore appeared in 18 of them. Other officers appeared in 6. 2 were listed under supervisor override. Maya's eyes narrowed. Supervisor override. Open those. Paul clicked. Both entries were tied to Lieutenant Frank Hollis. Maya read the times. 1 matched Mrs. King's complaint window. 1 matched Calvin Brooks's arrest date. Print it, Maya said. Paul did. Before the printer finished, The door opened without a knock. Captain Ellis stood there. His face looked worse than before. Hollis is asking to leave for medical reasons. Maya turned. What medical reasons? He says his blood pressure is elevated. Has EMS been called? No. Then he stays available. Ellis shifted. He says, if we prevent him from leaving, the union will treat it as unlawful detention. He is not detained. He is restricted from accessing systems and required to remain available during active evidence preservation. If he needs medical care, call EMS and document it. Ellis nodded, but he did not leave. Maya waited. What else? Ellis looked at the printed pages coming from the machine. The union attorney is downstairs. For Grace? For Grace. And possibly Hollis. Maya looked at Paul. Good. Put all council contacts on the log. Ellis lowered his voice. Deputy Inspector General. This is getting bigger fast. It was already big. We are just writing it down. Ellis absorbed that. Then he said, there are officers here who will not talk if Hollis is in the building. Maya studied him. Names. He hesitated. Maya's voice hardened. Captain. Ellis stepped inside and closed the door halfway. Records clerk. Front desk night shift. Maybe 2 patrol officers. Why won't they talk? Because Hollis keeps notes. Maya said nothing. Ellis continued. Not official notes, personal ones. Who made mistakes? Who drank too much after shift? Who had a complaint that went away? Who needed a transfer approved? Paul looked up. Maya asked, you knew this? I suspected. That is not an answer. Ellis looked down. Yes, there it was again. Silence with a title. Maya picked up the freshly printed camera interruption log. Then we separate him from the witnesses now. Ellis nodded. How? Put him in your office with internal affairs outside the door. He keeps his counsel call, but no phone access without observation. No hallway movement. No contact with staff. Ellis swallowed. He'll say I turned on him. Maya stepped closer. Captain, he has been using your silence as office space. Decide whether he gets to keep it. Ellis looked at her for a long moment. Then something in him gave way. Not collapse. Decision. I'll order it. Maya handed him a copy of the restriction form. Sign first. He signed. This time, his hand did not hesitate. After Ellis left, Paul looked at Maya. You think he'll follow through? I think he's afraid. Of Hollis. Of what the truth says about him. Paul leaned back. That can go either way. I know. Maya picked up the camera interruption log and placed it beside the complaint summary. The picture was becoming clearer. Grace at the front desk. Cameras failing when citizens complained. Hollis reviewing the results. Ellis looking away. A hidden evidence box with Andre Miller's name on it. A dog alerting where records said nothing existed. Maya looked through the interior window toward the hallway. Hollis passed by with Ellis beside him and an internal affairs investigator behind them. Hollis did not look into the interview room as he passed. That was deliberate. He knew she was watching. Maya watched anyway. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number appeared. Single mothers should know when to stop. Paul saw her face change. What is it? Maya turned the phone toward him. His expression darkened. Threat. Warning. Same thing. No, Maya said. A threat wants fear. A warning reveals pressure. She forwarded the message to the evidence line, then placed the phone on the table. Paul asked, You okay? Maya looked at the complaint summary, the camera log, and Mrs. King's copied documents. She thought of every time someone had expected her to fold because she was tired, alone, outnumbered, or carrying more life than the room could see. Then she looked back at Paul. Yes, she said. Now pull every case where the camera failed, and a confession followed. Paul's hands returned to the keyboard. Outside the interview room, Precinct 12 kept moving, but it no longer moved freely. Every door, every file, every silent officer now belonged to the record. K9. Justice. Paul Reeves pulled the confession cases in less than 6 minutes. There were 5. 5 cases in 3 years where camera footage had failed, a citizen complaint had been dismissed, and a confession had followed without clear video support. Maya stood over the table and read the names one by one. Darius King, Marcus Lee, Evelyn Porter's brother, Anthony Porter, Daniel Rivas. Andre Miller. Andre's name sat at the bottom of the list like the final weight on a scale that had already tipped. Paul tapped the screen. Andre's file has the most gaps. Maya did not sit down. Show me. Paul opened the case summary. The official record was clean. Too clean. Robbery with a weapon. Positive identification. Recovery of partial property. Signed statement. Case closed. Conviction entered. Maya read the booking timeline. Arrest logged at 9:15 p.m. Interview began at 9:42 p.m. Statement signed at 11:08 p.m. Property logged after midnight. She looked at Paul. But the hidden box exists. Yes. And if that box is real evidence, why wasn't it in discovery? Paul's mouth tightened. That is the question. Maya already knew it was more than a question. It was the kind of absence that could keep an innocent man in prison. A knock came at the open door. Officer Samuel Reed stood there with K-9 Justice at his side. Deputy Inspector General, Reed said. Internal Affairs finished photographing the evidence cabinet. Maya picked up her notebook. Has the box been opened? No. Still sealed inside the cabinet. Waiting on you. Good. Reed hesitated. Maya noticed. What is it? Justice is still locked on that cabinet. He won't settle. Paul looked up. What does that mean? Reed put one hand on the dog's harness. Means there's something on or in that box he was trained to alert to. Could be narcotics. Could be gun oil. Could be residue from packaging. Could be old scent. But he knows it's there. Maya closed the folder. Then we document the alert before we touch anything. They moved as a group. This time, Maya brought 2 internal affairs investigators. Paul, Reed, the property clerk's temporary replacement, and a state evidence technician who had just arrived from the attorney's office. Captain Ellis followed at a distance. Hollis did not. He had been placed in Ellis's office with an internal affairs investigator posted outside. His attorney had been called. His department access had been suspended. On paper, he was contained. Maya knew paper could lie. She paused outside evidence storage. Body cameras on. Everyone confirmed. Reed looked down at Justice. Search. Justice moved forward the moment the door opened. He did not wander. He did not check the first shelves. He went straight to the out-of-service cabinet, planted his paws, and barked once. The state evidence technician filmed from behind Maya. Reed gave the command again. Justice sat in front of the cabinet. Reed looked at Maya. Positive alert. Maya turned to the technician. Time? 12:14 p.m. Record that Justice gave a positive alert at the out-of-service cabinet containing an unlisted evidence box marked with Andre Miller's case number. The technician repeated the statement for the recording. Maya stepped close, but did not touch the cabinet. Cut the seal we placed. Open the cabinet. No one touches the box until photographed. The internal affairs investigator cut the temporary seal. The cabinet door opened. The cardboard evidence box sat exactly where it had been. Old. Unlisted. Wrong. Maya studied it closely now. The box had a standard evidence label, but the label had been partially scraped. Someone had removed or damaged the original entry field. The case number remained. Written in black marker across the top, Andre Miller's initials appeared near the corner. The chain of custody sleeve was missing. Maya pointed to the scraped area. Photograph that. The technician did. Maya looked at the replacement property clerk. Is there any legitimate reason for an evidence box to be stored without an exterior custody sleeve? No, ma'am. Is there any legitimate reason for an active felony case box to be absent from the electronic system? No. Is there any legitimate reason for it to be placed in a cabinet marked out of service? The clerk swallowed. No. Maya nodded to the technician. Open the box. The technician put on fresh gloves, cut the old tape, and lifted the lid. No one spoke. Inside were 3 items: a dark jacket in a plastic evidence bag, a cell phone sealed in a smaller bag, a USB drive inside a paper envelope. Maya's eyes went first to the phone. Read the tag. The technician leaned closer. Property recovered from subject vehicle. Initialing officer, G. W. Grace Whitmore. Maya looked at Paul. He wrote it down. Next item. The technician lifted the envelope without removing the USB. Digital media. Exterior note. Says pawn shop camera copy. Paul's head came up. Maya kept her voice calm. Pawn shop? Yes. that connected to the camera angle they had not yet retrieved but expected to need. Maya turned to Reed. Was there a pawn shop near the back alley tied to Andre Miller's arrest location? Reed nodded slowly. Across from the rear lot. Been there forever. Maya looked at Captain Ellis. Was that video entered into evidence? Ellis did not answer right away. Maya waited. I don't remember seeing it, he said. That is not what I asked. His shoulders sank slightly. No, not to my knowledge. The technician read the jacket tag. Dark hooded jacket. Recovered from dumpster behind 1400 block of Edmondson. Maya turned to Paul. Official record said property was recovered from Andre's person. Paul checked his notes. Yes. The conviction summary says identifying clothing was recovered at arrest. Maya looked at the jacket. Then why is a jacket recovered from a dumpster sitting in a hidden box? No one answered. Justice gave a low sound. Reed touched the dog's harness, calming him. Maya pointed to the USB. Make a forensic copy. Do not play the original. Chain it to the state evidence technician. The technician nodded. Maya pointed to the phone. Same. Full extraction request. Preserve device condition. Paul stepped closer. If that pawn shop video shows Andre was brought in earlier than the report says, it changes the timeline, Maya said. And if the phone places him away from the robbery, it changes the case. Captain Ellis rubbed both hands over his face. Maya looked at him. Captain, who supervised Andre Miller's case? Ellis already knew the answer. She saw it. Hollis. Who handled intake? Ellis looked at the evidence label. Grace. Maya said nothing. She did not need to. The names kept returning. Grace at the front, Hollis at the bottom. Over and over. A pattern was no longer forming. It had formed. Maya stepped back from the cabinet. Seal all 3 items separately under state authority. The original box gets preserved as evidence of improper storage. I want photographs of the cabinet, the tape, the scraped label, the missing custody sleeve, and the out-of-service sign. The technician confirmed. Maya turned to Reed. Get Justice out of the room and document the alert in your K9 log. Reed nodded. Yes, ma'am. He led Justice out. Maya followed. In the hallway, Reed stopped beside the wall of old photographs. Justice sat at his heel. Reed looked shaken. I knew things were wrong, he said. Maya faced him. How wrong? He stared down the hallway toward the front of the precinct. Wrong enough that good people learned where not to look. That is not an answer. No, Reed said. It's a confession. Maya, let that sit. Reed looked at the photograph of Robert William. Your father would have asked why I stayed. What would you have told him? Reed's jaw tightened. That I thought one decent man in a bad room still counted for something. Maya's voice stayed even. Did it? He did not answer. That was answer enough. Paul came from the evidence room with the printed evidence receipt. Forensic copy of the USB is being made. They'll bring a laptop into interview 3. Original stays. Sealed. How long? 10 minutes. Maya nodded. Get Captain Ellis in the room. Andrea too. Grace? Not yet. Hollis? Maya looked down the hallway toward Ellis's office. Absolutely not. Paul left. Reed remained beside her. You think that USB is why the box was hidden? I think someone wanted no one to know it existed. That's worse. Yes. Maya looked at Justice. The dog's work was done for the moment. He looked ordinary now. Older around the eyes. Quiet at Reed's side. Good boy, Maya said. Justice's ears lifted slightly. Reed gave a small, sad smile. He likes you. He likes evidence. That too. The brief softness passed. Andrea Whitcomb arrived first in interview 3. Captain Ellis came next. Paul entered with the state evidence technician, who carried a clean laptop not connected to the precinct system. Maya stood at the head of the table. We are about to review a forensic copy of digital media found in an unlisted evidence box bearing Andre Miller's case number. This is preliminary viewing for investigative direction. Original media remains sealed. The technician confirmed the copy process, on record. Then he opened the video file. The image appeared, grainy. Night footage. Fixed camera angle from across an alley. A timestamp in the corner. Maya leaned forward. A patrol car pulled into view. Then another. 2 officers removed a young black man from the back of the first car. His hands were cuffed. He was wearing a light gray sweatshirt, not a dark jacket. Paul said quietly, "Timestamp." Maya read it. 9999. The official report said Andre Miller entered Precinct 12 at 9:15. On screen, Andre Miller was being walked into the rear entrance 2 hours earlier. The video continued. Grace Whitmore appeared beside the second patrol car. Then another figure stepped into frame. Lieutenant Frank Hollis. He pointed toward the rear door. Grace nodded. Andre was taken inside. The technician paused the video. No one spoke. Captain Ellis sat back slowly, color draining from his face. Andrea whispered, "Dear God." Maya kept her eyes on the screen. This was no longer about a front desk insult. It was no longer about 17 complaints. It was about time stolen from a man's life. Maya turned to Paul. "Pull Andre Miller's full case file." Paul nodded. Maya looked at Ellis. "Captain, from this point forward, no one in this precinct discusses Andre Miller's case without my office present." Ellis nodded, unable to speak. Maya looked back at the frozen image of Hollis on the screen. A hidden box, a missing video, a false timeline, a man in prison. K9 Justice had found the first hard proof buried in the back of Precinct 12. Now Maya had to find out who buried it, who knew, and how many lives had been built on top of the lie. Andre Miller was here. Maya did not let anyone speak for 10 seconds. The video stayed frozen on the laptop screen. Andre Miller stood between 2 officers, his hands behind his back, his gray sweatshirt bright under the rear entrance light. Grace Whitmore was visible beside the patrol car. Lieutenant Frank Hollis stood near the door, one arm lifted, directing the movement inside. The timestamp read 7:08 p.m. The official report said 9:15 p.m. 2 hours and 7 minutes had been removed from Andre Miller's life before anyone ever put a signature on paper. Maya looked at Paul Reeves. "Copy the frame. Mark the timestamp. Create a still image for the investigative file." Paul nodded and moved quickly. The state evidence technician kept his hands away from the keyboard until Paul gave the instruction. Every movement was documented, every action spoken aloud. No one in that room was going to give Hollis an opening later. Captain Ellis sat at the table with both hands folded. He looked like a man trying to remember when the ground beneath him first started cracking. Andrea Whitcomb stood by the wall, phone in hand but lowered now, as if even the mayor's office could wait for the truth to finish entering the room. Maya turned to Ellis. "Who signed the original Andre Miller arrest timeline?" Ellis swallowed. "I need to look at the file." "You know." His eyes lifted to hers. Maya did not soften the demand. Ellis looked away first. Hollis signed supervisory approval. Grace was one of the intake officers. The arresting officers were Barlow and Keene. Where are Barlow and Keene now? Barlow transferred last year. Keene still works patrol. Is Keene in the building? Not today. Get his current schedule and contact information. Do not call him yet. Ellis nodded. Maya turned to Paul. Pull the full Andre Miller file. Arrest report. Booking sheet. Interview log. Property log. Any body camera entries. Any court discovery inventory. Any complaint connected to the case. Paul was already typing. Maya looked back at the frozen image. Andre Miller had been 24 when the case was closed. He would still be 24 now if the conviction was recent enough, or older if the system had taken more than months. Either way, the file on the screen was not a file anymore. It was a man. That was what people inside systems forgot first. They stopped seeing men and mothers and sons. They saw case numbers, workloads, dispositions, clearance rates, problems to be moved along. Maya refused to let Andre become only a case number in this room. "Paul," she said, "confirm current custody status." He worked for another moment. Maryland Correctional Training Center. Sentence active. Appeal denied 8 months ago. Andrea whispered. 8 months ago. Maya said nothing. Paul continued. There was a post-conviction petition filed by a public defender, denied for lack of newly discovered evidence. Maya looked at the hidden box. Newly discovered evidence was sitting in this building. Captain Ellis closed his eyes. Maya turned to him. "Open your eyes, Captain." He did. You do not get to disappear into shame right now. Shame comes later. Right now, you help us document. Ellis nodded once. Understood. The technician restarted the video. Andre was guided through the rear entrance. The footage continued for another minute. Grace spoke to Hollis. No audio. Hollis pointed toward the alley. Grace walked to the second patrol car, opened the front passenger door, and removed something from inside. The image was grainy, but she appeared to be holding a dark bundle. The technician paused. Maya leaned closer. Zoom if you can without altering the original file. The technician worked on the copy. The image sharpened slightly. A dark jacket. Paul looked at Maya. The jacket in the box. Maya nodded. Continue. Grace carried the jacket away from the patrol car and disappeared toward the side of the building. Hollis remained near the rear door. His posture was calm. Nothing in his body suggested confusion, urgency, or surprise. He was not reacting to events. He was managing them. The video ended at 7:11 p.m. Maya straightened. Run the phone next. The technician shook his head. Extraction will take longer. We can do a preliminary device inventory if it powers on, but full content needs lab processing. Do not power it on here, Maya said. Send it to the lab under state chain. Understood. Paul's laptop chimed. Andre Miller, full file is in. He turned the screen. Maya read the arrest narrative first. According to Officer Barlow, Andre Miller was apprehended at 8:55 p.m. after matching the suspect description. The report claimed he was wearing a dark hooded jacket and carrying a phone linked to the robbery victim's stolen property. It claimed he was transported directly to Precinct 12 and booked at 9:15 p.m. Maya looked at the evidence list. Dark hooded jacket. Logged. Phone. Logged. No USB. No pawn shop footage. No mention of rear entrance arrival at 7:08. She moved to the interview log. Interview start. 9:42 p.m. Statement signed. 11:08 p.m. Rights form signed. 9:39 p.m. Maya tapped the screen. If he was inside at 7:08, where was he between 7:08 and 9:39? No one answered. That silence was not empty. It was full of possibilities, all of them bad. Maya turned to Paul. Search for holding cell logs. Paul typed, missing. Missing. Not uploaded in the file. Check precinct system. He did. A longer pause. Then he looked up. No digital holding log available for that date. It says paper log archived. Maya looked at Ellis. Where are archived paper holding logs kept? Ellis looked toward the hallway. Record storage. Who controls access? Ellis hesitated. Maya's voice lowered. Captain. Hollis had administrative access. Record staff had physical access. Maya closed the laptop halfway. Secure record storage next. Paul stood. Maya stopped him. Take internal affairs. Do not go alone. He left immediately. Andrea stepped closer. Do we notify the public defender? Not until the evidence is secured and copied. And the prosecutor? Yes. Quietly. State attorney's office first. Tell them possible Brady violation, evidence suppression, false timeline. Andrea's expression tightened at the legal weight of the words. I'll make the call. Use my language exactly. I will. She stepped out. Maya remained with Ellis and the technician. Ellis spoke first. I signed off on monthly audits. Maya looked at him. Evidence audits? Yes. Did you physically inspect boxes? Spot checks. Mostly reports. Reports prepared by whom? He did not answer. Maya did it for him. Hollis. Ellis rubbed one hand over his face. He was reliable. No, Maya said. He was useful. That hit him. Ellis lowered his hand. I thought he kept this place from falling apart. Maya looked at the frozen video again. Maybe he kept it from telling the truth. Paul returned 10 minutes later with an internal affairs investigator and a sealed paper logbook inside a clear evidence bag. Record storage had one box of old holding logs. Paul said, This one covers Andre's arrest date. It was on the wrong shelf. Wrong by accident? Paul's face said no. Maya pointed to the table. Open under camera. The logbook was photographed, removed, and open to the date of Andre's arrest. There were handwritten entries. 6:52 p.m. Intake prep. 7:09 p.m. Male detainee brought through rear entrance. Name field blank. 7:17 p.m. Placed in interview room B. No booking number. No rights form. No attorney call. Then, at 9:16 p.m., a new entry appeared in different handwriting. Andre Miller. Official booking. Maya looked at the two entries for a long time. There he is, Paul said quietly. Maya's voice stayed controlled. Andre Miller was here. Ellis looked at the page as if it had accused him personally. Maya pointed to the blank name entry. Who wrote this? Paul checked the handwriting comparison sheet from the logbook's front. Looks like Officer Keene. And the 9:16 entry? Paul turned a page. Compared signatures. Grace Whitmore? Maya nodded. And who initialed the page review? Paul already knew. Hollis. Maya stepped back. The hidden video proved Andre entered early. The paper log proved the precinct knew it. The official report erased it. Grace rewrote the booking time. Hollis reviewed it. That was not sloppy work. That was construction. Maya turned to Ellis. You will order Officer Keene to report for interview. You will not tell him details. You will not allow Hollis or anyone else to contact him first. Ellis nodded. I'll do it now. Use a recorded department line. He nodded again and left. Maya looked at Paul. Get a copy of the log page to the state attorney's team. Mark it urgent. Paul took the page scan from the technician. Maya's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She looked at it but did not answer. The message came instead. You are making this worse for yourself. Maya read it once. Paul saw it. Same number? Blocked. Forwarding? Yes. She sent it to the evidence line and placed the phone face down. Paul watched her carefully. Maya. She looked up. He rarely used her first name on duty. You should consider a protection detail. No. Maya. No. She said again. Not yet. If I surround myself too early, they'll say I'm dramatizing the threat. You received 2 messages. And I preserved both. That does not make you safe. She knew that. She also knew safety had never been evenly distributed. Some people got to be protected when they were uncomfortable. Others had to prove danger after it had already arrived. Maya picked up the complaint summary and placed it beside Andre's log page. This is why we keep moving. Paul did not like it, but he nodded. Ellis returned. Keene is off duty but reachable. He'll report in 40 minutes. Good. His face looked strained. What did you tell him? Maya asked. That he was needed for an administrative interview related to an old case. Did he ask which case? Yes. And? I told him he'd be briefed on arrival. Maya nodded. For the first time that day, Ellis had done exactly what needed doing. It did not absolve him, but it mattered. Andrea came back into the room. State attorney's office is sending a senior prosecutor. They said if the log and video authenticate, they'll begin emergency review of Andre Miller's conviction. Maya looked at the frozen image on the screen. Andre being led inside. 2 hours before the report allowed him to exist. Tell them to move faster. Andrea nodded. The technicians sealed the copied media, the logbook scan, and the evidence inventory. Maya turned toward the hallway. Where is Hollis now? Paul checked with the investigator outside Ellis's office. Still in the captain's office, attorney on the line. Grace, waiting, with union rep. Keene, in 40. Maya looked at the name Andre Miller on the report. A man had been hidden in time before he was hidden in prison. Now time was coming back. Maya picked up the folder bag Grace had knocked to the floor that morning. It felt heavier now, not because more paper had been added, because the truth had. Prepare interview 2, she said. When Keene arrives, I want him separated before Hollis knows he's in the building. Paul nodded. Maya looked once more at the screen. Andre Miller had walked into Precinct 12 at 7:08 p.m. The official record had pretended he arrived at 9:15. Between those 2 times, something had happened inside this building, and Maya was going to find out what. Protection is not innocence. Officer Keene arrived at 12:56 p.m. He came through the rear employee entrance, not the front. Paul Reeves caught that detail before Maya said a word. Why the back door? Paul asked quietly. Maya watched the hallway monitor from the interview room because someone told him to avoid the lobby. Ellis? No, Maya said. Ellis would have documented it. Hollis wouldn't. Keene was 32. Lean, clean-shaven, with the cautious face of a man who had spent the drive over deciding how much he remembered. He wore civilian clothes under a department jacket. His eyes moved too quickly when he entered. First to the sealed complaint cabinet, then to the internal affairs investigator near the hall, then toward Captain Ellis's office, toward Hollis. Maya saw it. Paul saw it too. Separate him now, Maya said. Paul stepped into the hallway before Keene could move farther. Officer Keene. This way. Keene hesitated. I was told to report to Captain Ellis. You're reporting to an administrative interview, Paul said. This way. Do I need a lawyer? That is your right. Keene looked again toward Ellis's office. Maya stepped out. Officer Keene. He turned. She showed her credentials. My name is Maya William, Deputy Inspector General. You are not under arrest. You are being asked to provide information in an active civil rights review. You may request representation, but you may not speak with any subject or witness before this interview. Keene's throat moved. Am I a subject? That depends on what you tell the truth about. He looked at her for a long second. Then he nodded. Inside. Interview 2. Keene sat with both hands flat on the table. Paul started the recording. Maya read the advisement slowly and clearly. Keene waived representation for the initial factual interview. Though Maya made sure the waiver was repeated on record, she began with the simple questions. Name, rank, assignment, years at Precinct 12. Then, she placed a printed still image on the table. Andre Miller, at the rear entrance, 2008 in p.m. Keene stared at it. Maya said, Do you recognize this man? Keene did not answer. Officer Keene. Yes. Say his name. His jaw tightened. Andre Miller. Did you bring Andre Miller into Precinct 12 through the rear entrance at 7:08 p.m. on the date shown? Keene looked at the image again. Yes. Maya placed the official report beside it. The report states Andre Miller arrived at 9:15 p.m. Why? Keene stared at the two papers. I don't know. Maya let the lie sit there for a moment. Then she placed the old holding log page on the table. Your handwriting records an unnamed male detainee entering at 7:09 and being placed in interview room B at 7:17. Grace Whitmore later entered Andre Miller, officially at 9:16. Lieutenant Hollis initialed the page review. I'm going to ask again. Why does the official report say 9:15? Keene's hands curled slightly. I was told the first entry was a mistake. By whom? He looked toward the door. Maya said, No one outside this room can help you answer that. Keene closed his eyes briefly. Hollis. Paul wrote it down. Maya kept her voice steady. What exactly did Lieutenant Hollis tell you? Keene breathed in through his nose. He said Andre wasn't formally booked until after the ID confirmation. He said the earlier entry would confuse the timeline. Confuse it or contradict it? Keene did not answer. Maya leaned forward. Officer Keene. An innocent man may be in prison because people in this building chose convenient language over the truth. I need exact words. Keene looked down. He said, You didn't see a suspect. You saw a possible witness waiting to be processed. Maya wrote it down. Was Andre Miller treated as a witness? No. Was he free to leave? No. Was he handcuffed? Yes. Was he questioned before the rights form at 9:39? Keene pressed his lips together. Maya waited. Yes, he said. For how long? Off and on. I don't know. Maybe an hour. Who questioned him? Hollis. Grace was in and out. Barlow too. Were you present? Some. Did Andre ask for a lawyer? Keene looked sick. Maya did not move. Yes. How many times? Twice that I heard. What happened? Hollis told him asking for a lawyer would make things harder. Said if he cooperated, they could talk to the prosecutor. Maya felt the cold anger return. She kept it out of her voice. Was that documented? No. Was the interview recorded? There was a camera. Was it on? Keene's eyes lifted. At first. Paul stopped writing for a second. Maya said, What does that mean? Keene swallowed. Grace turned it off. On whose instruction? He did not answer. Maya said, Officer Keene, Hollis. The room went quiet. Maya placed another photograph on the table. This one, of the dark jacket from the hidden box. Did Andre Miller wear this jacket when he entered the precinct? Keene looked at it. No. Where did it come from? I don't know. You were there. I didn't see where it came from. Did you see Grace carry a dark jacket near the rear lot? He looked at the still image from the pawn shop footage. Yes. Was that jacket later described as recovered from Andre at arrest? Yes. Did you challenge that? No. Why not? Keene rubbed both hands over his face. Because Hollis said the case was already clean. He said the guy had been picked out. He had priors. And nobody was going to believe him anyway. Maya stared at him. Did you believe Andre Miller was guilty? Keene looked at the table. I didn't know. That was not my question. He looked up. No. Not then. Paul's pen stopped. Maya let the answer stay in the air. You helped process a man you did not believe was guilty. Keene's voice dropped. Yes. The word did not redeem him. But it mattered. Maya closed the folder. Why are you telling us this now? Keene looked toward the door again. Because Hollis called me before I came in. Paul's head snapped up. Maya remained still. When? About 15 minutes before I got here. What did he say? He told me this was political. He said you were trying to turn an old case into a civil rights headline. He told me to remember the official timeline. How did he contact you? My personal cell. Maya looked at Paul. Document and preserve. We'll need his phone. Keene nodded before she asked. I'll give it. That surprised her. Keene reached into his jacket, placed his phone on the table, and pushed it toward Paul. I'm tired, he said. Maya watched him. Tired of what? Waiting for this to come back. Maya did not soften. It came back for Andre Miller first. Keene nodded. Eyes wet but not crying. I know. Maya ended the interview 20 minutes later and had Keene escorted to a separate waiting room. His phone was bagged. His statement was copied. The call from Hollis would be extracted and verified. When Maya stepped into the hallway, Paul followed close. That gives us Hollis directing the false timeline, he said. It gives us more than that, Maya said. It gives us pre-rights questioning, camera shutoff, and evidence inconsistency. And Grace. Yes. They both looked toward the front interview room. Grace Whitmore had been sitting with her union representative for over an hour. Her face was pale now. She no longer looked angry. She looked like a person listening to footsteps approach and knowing they were meant for her. Maya entered with Paul. Grace's union representative, a square-faced man named Tom Braddock, sat beside her. My client is not answering questions without counsel, he said. Maya placed Keene's signed statement summary on the table. I'm not here to question her yet. Grace stared at the paper. Maya said, Officer Keene has provided a statement regarding Andre Miller. Grace's breathing changed. Braddock said, We'll need to review any allegation before responding. You will receive what procedure allows, Maya said. But Officer Whitmore needs to understand her position has changed. Grace looked up slowly. What did he say? Braddock snapped. Grace. She ignored him. What did Keene say? Maya held Herr Gaze. He said, Lieutenant Hollis instructed officers to preserve a false timeline. He said you turned off interview room recording. He said Andre Miller asked for counsel before the official rights form. He identified the jacket as inconsistent with Andre's arrival. Grace's face seemed to lose structure. Braddock leaned forward. We're done here, Grace whispered. He told me it was handled. Maya did not move. Braddock turned on her. Do not say another word. Grace looked at him. Then at Maya. He said the case was solid. He said if the paperwork got messy, a guilty man could walk. Maya sat down. Braddock said, Grace. This time Grace snapped back. You weren't there. The room changed. Grace turned to Maya, and the arrogance from the front desk was gone. What remained was fear. Ugly fear. Selfish fear. But fear that had finally lost its hiding place. Hollis said, If I didn't fix the intake time, I'd be the reason the whole case collapsed. Maya asked, Did he tell you to turn off the camera? Grace's eyes filled but did not spill. Yes. Which camera? Interview room B. Front desk sometimes too. How often? I don't know. Maya's voice hardened. That is not good enough. Grace looked down. Whenever he said a complaint was going nowhere, Braddock stood. This interview is over. Maya looked at him. Your client initiated the statement. She may stop at any time. Grace looked at the table. I thought if I did what he said, I'd be protected. There it was. The line Maya had heard too many times in too many forms. Protected by silence. Protected by rank. Protected by the belief that the people being harmed had less value than the people doing harm. Maya leaned forward. Protection is not the same as innocence. Grace flinched. Maya continued. You can tell the truth. It may matter. It may help expose what Hollis built, but it will not erase what you did. Grace nodded once, barely. I'll give a statement. Braddock looked furious. Grace. No. Grace looked at Maya. I'll give it. Before Maya could respond, Andrea Whitcomb opened the door without knocking. Her face was tense. Deputy Inspector General. I need you in the hall. Maya stepped out. Andrea held up her phone. The mayor's office just ordered a temporary pause on your direct field authority for 24 hours pending procedural review. Paul stared at her. What? Andrea spoke quickly. Union pressure. Media pressure. They're saying the investigation expanded beyond initial authorization. Maya felt the room narrow. Behind the closed door, Grace was ready to talk. In Ellis's office, Hollis was contained but still dangerous. In evidence storage, Andre Miller's hidden box sat sealed. And now the system was doing what systems did when truth moved too fast. It was slowing the person carrying it. Maya asked. Effective when? Andrea's voice lowered. Immediately. At the end of the hallway, an internal affairs investigator hurried toward them. Deputy Inspector General, he said. Hollis is requesting release from restriction under the pause order. Maya looked past him toward the evidence corridor. Then Captain Ellis came around the corner, phone in hand, face pale. Hollis just ordered the Andre Miller box transferred for inventory review. Paul said. He can't. His access is restricted. Ellis looked at Maya. He used a supervisor override through another account. For 1 second, no one moved. Then Maya picked up her folder bag. Grace was not finished. Hollis was not contained. And Andre Miller's evidence was about to disappear again. No one is nobody. Andre Miller walked out of custody 3 days later. He did not run. People who had never been locked away sometimes imagined freedom as a burst of motion. They thought a man would rush into daylight, throw his arms wide, shout, cry, laugh, fall to his knees. Andre did none of that. He stepped through the release door slowly, as if the world might change its mind if he moved too fast. His mother stood on the sidewalk outside the correctional facility with both hands pressed against her mouth. Mrs. Lorraine Miller was 62 years old. She had waded through hearings, denials, unanswered calls, and polite letters that said nothing could be done. She had learned to sleep beside the phone. She had learned the sound of bad news before anyone spoke it. She had learned that hope, when stretched too long, could feel almost cruel. But when Andre came through the door, hope found its way back into her body. My baby, she whispered. Andre stopped when he saw her. For a second, he looked 24 again. Not like an inmate, not like a case number, not like the man in the grainy video with his hands cuffed behind his back. Just a son. Then he walked to her. Lorraine reached him first. She wrapped her arms around him and held on with the strength of every night she had survived without him. Andre bent his head against her shoulder. His hands trembled once, then closed around her back. Maya stood several feet away with Paul Reeves, the senior prosecutor, and Andre's public defender. She did not interrupt the embrace. No one did. Some moments did not belong to the state. They did not belong to investigators, prosecutors, reporters, or officials. They belonged to the people who had suffered longest and been heard last. Lorraine pulled back just enough to touch her son's face. They told me you were coming home, she said. I didn't believe it until I saw you. Andre's voice was rough. I didn't believe it either. His eyes moved past her and found Maya. Lorraine turned with him. This is her, she said. This is the woman I told you about. Andre looked at Maya for a long moment. Then he walked toward her. Maya met him halfway. "Mr. Miller?" she said. He shook his head slightly. "Andre." Maya nodded. "Andre." He tried to speak, but the first attempt failed. He looked down, then back up. "Did you find the video?" "Yes." "And the log?" "Yes." "And they knew?" Maya did not lie to make mercy easier. "Yes." Andre closed his eyes. For a moment, his face showed the pain of a man receiving confirmation of what he had always known but had been unable to prove. Truth could free a person and wound him at the same time. When he opened his eyes, he looked toward his mother. She kept saying, "I wasn't crazy." Lorraine wiped her face with both hands. "I knew you weren't." Andre looked back at Maya. "Thank you." Maya accepted the words, but she did not let them become a victory. "You should never have needed me." He nodded slowly. "No, but I did." The prosecutor stepped forward and explained the emergency release conditions. The conviction had not yet been fully vacated, but the court had ordered Andre released pending formal review after the suppressed evidence was authenticated. The state attorney's office had opened a criminal investigation into Frank Hollis, and every case tied to his reviews was being examined. Andre listened quietly. Lorraine held his hand the whole time. When the paperwork was finished, Andre turned to Maya again. "What happens to them?" Maya knew who he meant. "Grace Whitmore has been removed from duty and referred for prosecution. Frank Hollis is under criminal investigation for evidence suppression, false reporting, obstruction, and civil rights violations. Captain Ellis has submitted his resignation pending review." Andre absorbed it. "That doesn't give me back the time." "No," Maya said. "It doesn't." He looked at her, surprised by the bluntness. Maya continued, "Justice does not give back everything. Sometimes it only stops the lie from taking more." Lorraine nodded through tears. Andre looked at the sky for a moment, then at his mother. "I want to go home." Maya stepped aside. "Then go home." Lorraine took her son's arm as if he might disappear if she let go. Together they walked toward a waiting car. Andre paused once before getting in. He looked back at Maya and lifted one hand. She lifted hers. Then he got in beside his mother, and the car drove away. Maya stood still until it disappeared from sight. Paul came beside her. "You did good." Maya looked at him. "We did what the evidence allowed." "That's your way of saying you did good." She almost smiled. Almost. A week later, Precinct 12 opened its doors under interim command. Officer Samuel Reed stood at the front desk on the first morning, not because he wanted attention, but because Maya had asked who should be there when the public returned. Captain Ellis had resigned 2 days earlier. His letter did not excuse himself. It stated that he had allowed a culture of silence to grow under his command, and that silence had harmed citizens. It was not enough, but it was honest in a way his leadership had not been. Frank Hollis remained in custody pending further proceedings after investigators found additional altered complaint records and unauthorized evidence transfers. His attorney called the case political. The documents kept saying otherwise. Grace Whitmore's termination was finalized through emergency administrative process and referred to the City Oversight Board. Her later statement confirmed that Hollis had trained officers to make complaints die at intake before they ever became problems for command. But Maya knew Grace had not been only a victim of Hollis. She had also been a choice maker. Every insult had been a choice. Every camera switch had been a choice. Every paper refused at the counter had been a choice. That mattered. Calvin Brooks returned to the precinct that morning with his son, Terrence. Mrs. Alberta King came too, carrying the same folder Maya had first seen in interview 2. Others came after them. Some wanted to give statements. Some wanted copies of records. Some simply wanted to stand inside the building and see whether the door felt different. Maya watched from near the hallway. Reed greeted each person by name when he could. When he could not, he asked. Not sharply, not as a challenge, as a duty. "How can we help you today?" The question sounded ordinary. That was what made it powerful. Ordinary decency had been missing long enough to feel like reform. Paul stood beside Maya with a clipboard. "The independent complaint desk goes live Monday," he said. "Separate entrance, civilian intake staff, automatic receipt numbers, camera feed mirrored to the state server." Maya nodded. "And records?" 3-year audit underway. Every Hollis-reviewed complaint flagged. Every confession case with camera failure is being reopened for screening. Good. From the front desk, K9 Justice gave one quiet bark. Reed looked down at him. Not now, partner. A few people laughed softly. Maya looked at the old dog and felt a strange tenderness. Justice had found what people had hidden, not because he understood corruption, not because he understood race, power, fear, or law. He had simply followed what was wrong until someone listened. Sometimes that was where justice began. Near the front entrance, workers installed a bronze plaque beside the door. Maya had not requested it. The community board had. Andrea Whitcomb stood nearby, supervising the placement. When the worker stepped back, the words caught the light. No one who walks through this door is nobody. Maya read the sentence twice. It was simple, maybe too simple for everything that had happened. But simple truths were often the ones systems worked hardest to avoid. Reed came to stand beside her. Your father would have liked that. Maya looked at the plaque. He would have asked who was going to live up to it. Reed nodded. Fair. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Reed said, I should have done more sooner. Yes, Maya said. He accepted it. I'm going to try now. Try with records, she said. Try with receipts. Try with officers who roll their eyes when people complain. Try when nobody from the state is watching. Reed looked at her. That sounds like your father. No, Maya said. That sounds like the people he listened to. Reed nodded slowly and returned to the desk. Maya walked toward the front counter. It was the same counter where Grace had knocked her folder bag to the floor. The same counter where so many people had been told to leave. Wait. Calm down. Come back. Stop asking. Know their place. Maya placed her old folder bag on it one last time. The bent corners still showed. Paul stood behind her, keeping it. Yes. Evidence? No, Maya said. Reminder. A woman entered the precinct holding papers in both hands. She looked uncertain, ready to apologize before anyone had wronged her. Reed looked up. Good morning, ma'am. What can we help you with? The woman hesitated. I need to file a complaint. No one said. No one reached for a baton. No camera light went dark. Reed reached for an intake form and placed it on the counter. Yes, ma'am, he said. We can do that. Maya watched the woman's shoulders lower. Just a little, but enough. Paul looked at Maya. Maybe it changes. Maya thought of Andre walking out slowly. Lorraine holding him. Calvin's careful handwriting. Mrs. King's torn folder. Grace's badge on the table. Hollis, in cuffs. Ellis finally speaking when it was almost too late. She thought of her father's photograph in the hallway of old names. Then she looked at the bronze plaque beside the door. Maybe not everything, Maya said. But today it changes enough. She picked up the old folder bag and walked toward the exit. This time, nobody ordered her out. This time, the door opened like it belonged to everyone. The lesson of Maya Williams' story is simple, but powerful. No one should ever be judged by how they look, how they dress, where they come from, or how much power they seem to have. True justice begins when someone is willing to listen to the people others have ignored. A badge, a title, or a position of authority should never be used to silence the weak. It should be used to protect them, and sometimes, the truth does not need to shout. It only needs one brave person to preserve the evidence, ask the right questions, and refuse to look away. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this story. Your time and attention mean more than words can say. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts with us. We would love to hear your feedback about the way the story was told, what moved you most, and what we can do better in future episodes. And if you have a powerful true story, a family story, or an inspiring story about justice, courage, kindness, or a hidden truth finally coming to light, please send it to our channel. Your story may be the next one that helps someone feel seen, heard, and less alone. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.